Jason Robbins, followed by Alex Rush Favacho.
Thank you, council members. My name is Teresa Mesqua-Smith. I live, work, and vote in Camarillo, and I support SB 54. California has the 5th largest economy in the world, and agriculture is a prominent element of that. When the owner of our local Underwood Farms was asked if he hires undocumented workers, he said yes, primarily because U.S. citizens are not applying for these agriculture jobs. Maybe there should be a focus on making it easier for immigrants to come to our country legally. Our economy benefits from immigrant labor just so much. There are 319 agriculture companies in Camarillo alone. We shouldn't demonize undocumented immigrants, and we shouldn't hurt our local agriculture businesses. SB 54 states that if an undocumented immigrant is detained for a federal offense, they will be deported. SB 54 allows for undocumented immigrants to report crimes without the fear of themselves being deported. I stand with our Assembly member, Jackie Irwin, and the Democratic Club of Camarillo in support of SB 54, along with the Democratic Moms of Camarillo. It is your job to represent your constituents, even if it might be different from your personal belief. Camarillo residents deserve the right to be represented in their own community. We in blue support SB 54, and we ask that the Camarillo City Council remain neutral and comply with the Senate Bill 54. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Jason Robbins, followed by Alex Rush Favacho, followed by Bridget Fisher. If I mispronounced your name, I apologize.
Hello, Madam Mayor. Hello, council members. My name is Jason Robbins. I've been a resident living right here in this neighborhood for 46 years. Been voting in every election since I turned 18, nonpartisan. It's reported in the Camarillo Acorn after the April 25th council meeting. Councilman Mike Morgan quoted saying, "I'm very much against SB 54. And so is this council. We've already said we were." Morgan said, "The council sent a letter to the Senate opposing SB 54 in May 2017. And City Attorney Brian Perrick said that he will look into the council's options to oppose the bill. If the council decides to defy the state and align itself with the federal government, Camarillo would join Simi Valley and a bunch of other counties in support of Attorney General Jeff Sessions, the lawsuit." Typically, the U.S. government has sued a state to enforce civil rights. In fact, throughout American history, states' rights have been invoked as an excuse for state governments to have slavery or maintain segregation or resist federal civil rights laws. Now, through federalism, has been turned on its head and is California invoking states' rights to protect its residents from Trump's administration's repressive federal immigration policies. Excuse me. It is ironic to see conservatives who for so long have championed states' rights now embracing federal power. That is a excerpt from a reporter in the LA Times. I just thought it was pertinent. So we voted for the Senate. They made a law, and it's being challenged. That's what's going on, and we're making a decision.
Thank you for your comments. Alex Rush Favacho, followed by Bridget Fisher, followed by Greg Apramanian.
Favacho, close. Hello, my name's Alex. I born and raised in Camarillo, was born at St. John's Hospital. My grandfather is a former mayor, city council member of Camarillo, also a former Ventura County Commissioner. My mother's a appellate attorney for the state of California. My father is a State Farm insurance agent here. I help run my family construction company here in town, Rush Construction. Business operator for 35 years. In my experience, this has been an incredible town to grow up in. My family and I have been active members of the community. I grew up being active with the Kiwanis Club and got a scholarship from them to go to college. I support SB 54, and I hope that the City Council can support it as well in some of the actions that were outlined there. I think that the day and age that we live in, the protectionism that we're seeing in the U.S. and abroad in Europe is us really kind of falling back onto, I guess, our fears and falling back onto things that go beyond just what in our everyday lives is easy to see. I know this is ambiguous. I hope that we as people can see beyond just our color and our race and see each other in our common interest in what it is that we are trying to achieve. And everybody wants a good life and somewhere safe and call home. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Bridget Fisher, followed by Greg Abrahamian, followed by James Paulson.
My name is Bridget Fisher. I care deeply about Camarillo and its people and its safety. My 3 sons grew up here and thrived. I'm committed to Camarillo's well-being. I know you are too. I'm grateful to each of you for your service to Camarillo. I've seen you handing out programs at concerts in the park, speaking at the Camarillo Hospice Tree of Life, and at the California Conservation Corps graduation. You organized a neighborhood safety meeting last summer. I'm happy to live in the same city that you do. I've lived in Camarillo for 27 years. When I moved here, I had a 5th grader, a 3rd grader, and an infant. During the years that I've been here, I've volunteered at my son's schools, Tierra Linda, Las Colinas, Monte Vista, and Cam High. I've been a patient care volunteer for Camarillo Hospice since 2001. I've been a clarinet player in the Camarillo Community Band since 2002, and will be out at the Canale Mountain on Monday playing. And recently, I began serving as a Stephen minister. So why do I support Senate Bill 54? Because it's the just thing to do. I have benefited from the services of immigrants, and I am grateful for their work. When you read the pages of Senate Bill 54, you will know that individuals who have been convicted of a serious or violent felony are not exempt from the law and will be turned over to the Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Our Camarillo community will remain safe with Senate Bill 54.
Thank you for your comments. Greg Abrahamian.
Yes, very good. Thanks. Yeah, I'm Greg Abrahamian. I am here to ask the Camarillo City Council to join the challenge against SB 54. I would like to address what the city attorney had to say about some of the choices that you have. And I'd like you to compare what another city, Santa Clarita, did. They joined the challenge. In the wording of what Santa Clarita is directing their city council to do is to allow the city attorney to join or write an amicus brief in support of the federal court challenge against SB 54, which will be used at a later time if applicable. That's what the wording was. The city attorney was not accurate when he's saying that this was the only time to join the court challenge, and that the Judge Mendez is not interested in new amicus briefs if they're not different. The point I'm trying to make is there's going to be many points where you can join the challenge. Judge Mendez is going to have a verdict. It's going to be one side is going to win and the other side is going to lose. It's going to be appealed, and it's going to be an ongoing process for a while. So what you need to do is, if you want to support, you can join the court challenge at a later date, which is what Santa Clarita is doing. And so that's why it's important that you do reach a decision on SB 54. And the other thing I want to make is, you're going to hear a lot of pros and cons about this, but unfortunately, the pro SB 54 side, they seem to not understand the point. SB 54 specifically protects illegal alien criminals in our prisons. It's not about sanctuary. It's about sanctuary for criminals. They don't want to use the word criminals.
Thank you for your comments. James Paulson, followed by Deborah Levin, followed by Sandy Lee.
Good evening, Mayor Craven and members of the City Council. My name is Jim Paulson. I've lived in Camarillo since 2001. I support SB 54, that it ensures that no state and local resources are diverted to fuel any attempt by the federal government to carry out mass deportations, and that our schools, our hospitals, and our courthouses are spaces for everyone in our community. As a reminder, 2015, the gross value of crops grown in Ventura County was $2.2 billion. The top 5 crops are, as you all know, strawberries, lemons, nursery stocks, celery, and raspberries. I think the City Council, whatever the decision you make on the issue of SB 54, let's be sure and remember that we are surrounded by an economic powerhouse. And maybe you should be very sensitive to that fact. If whatever your final decision is, I want to thank you for letting us speak with you.
Thank you for your comments. Deborah Levin, followed by Sandy Lee, followed by Dawn Rosenberg.
I don't have much to add. I just am a senior. I live in Leisure Village, and I've lived in Camarillo for 10 years. I'm a voter. I highly support SB 54 for hardworking immigrants, and I feel very good about all the arguments in favor of SB 54 today. So I encourage you to support the California Values Act. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Sandy Lee, followed by Dawn Rosenberg, followed by Amy Chan.
Hi, I'm Sandy. Can you tell these following people that SB 54 will keep the public safe? Oh, wait, you can't, because they were all murdered by a criminal that was supposed to be deported. Catherine Kate Steinley, age 32. Edwin Jackson, 26 years old, Colts football player. Christopher William Eggle, age 28, U.S. National Park Ranger. Officer Kevin Will, age 38, Houston police officer. Whitney Mankey, age 33. Cabrin Ingoldsby, just age 7, and her sister, Hallie Ingoldsby, age 8, sisters. Jamil Shaw, age 17. He was a high school athlete. The person who murdered him March 2nd, 2008 was released from jail the day before and should have been deported. The Shaw family now wants the city of Los Angeles to repeal Special Order 40, which was implemented in 1979, which prohibited police from inquiring about the killer's immigration status and prevented his deportation back to Mexico. Jamil would still be alive. And this repeal is called Jamil's Law. It was written 10 years ago, and Los Angeles still has not put it on the ballot. Anita Shaw, Jamil's mother, who was serving her second tour in Iraq defending our country when he was murdered, wants her son to be remembered as a hero, a Christian, and a good example for young people to follow. Madam Mayor and council members, can you look these families in the eyes and tell them you're afraid to side with the federal government, afraid to oppose Governor Brown's SB 54 law? There's American families. Rhonda Baldwin Kennedy's uncle, she's running for assembly. He was murdered by somebody who he'd be alive if that person wasn't deported. Don Rosenberg's son. He'd be alive today also if the person responsible for their deaths were deported. Thank you.
Don Rosenberg, followed by Amy Chen, followed by Yolanda Torres.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council members. Thank you for letting me address you this evening. To the best of my knowledge, no one here tonight has been impacted by sanctuary policy as I have. As you just heard, my son was killed by an illegal alien in San Francisco in 2010. He was one of over 5,000 killed in the United States by illegal aliens that year. His killer, like the killers in almost every case, had either prior contact with law enforcement or prior convictions. In 2016, the last year numbers are available, there were over 52,000 illegal aliens in California prisons and jails. There were over 3 times as many cases where the offender was given probation. According to a GAO study, the average number of convictions of illegal aliens incarcerated in California was 8. That's convictions, not crimes committed. And according to FBI statistics on cleared crimes, slightly more than 1 in 5 crimes are ever solved. SB 54 protects those who have entered the country illegally and then committed additional crimes. I would ask everybody here that's in favor of SB 54, and you're certainly entitled to your opinion, to please look it up and read it. You keep talking about immigrants, you keep talking about everybody but the criminals. That's who it protects. And 97% of all convictions are by plea bargains. That means that the crimes that they committed, some were dropped or they were lessened, as in my son's case. He was originally charged with vehicular homicide, and the preliminary hearing judge reduced it to vehicular manslaughter, so it would be a misdemeanor instead of a felony. SB 54 does not require that the sheriffs turn criminals over to ICE. It does not require it. It only says that they can. I ask you, please.
Thank you for your comments.
Support the opposition.
Amy Chen, followed by Yolanda Torres, followed by George Miller.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. My name is Amy. SB 54 is not an immigration issue. We all know that. It's not about agricultural workers either. It's about protecting the criminals. It is so ridiculous for some to say here that if I oppose SB 54, I must be a racist, anti-immigrant agitator who don't welcome immigrants. This is just an intentional and vile attempt to falsely label me. I'm an immigrant who believes the best way to welcome immigrants is to keep them safe from the criminal element. I do not welcome criminals. The previous speaker had said some escaped violence to come here. So why are we recycling illegal criminal aliens right back into their immigrant community? I oppose SB 54 because I care about the safety of all people, legal and illegal members of our community. Compassion is about keeping safe the law-abiding people and not allowing them to be re-victimized by the criminals SB 54 is letting back out into the community just because these criminals did not commit the specific crimes listed in SB 54. Those that support SB 54 can only resort to lies. They say opposing SB 54 will separate families and promote mass deportation. This is nonsense. The objective of SB 54 has nothing to do with protecting hardworking, law-abiding immigrants. Instead, the objective of SB 54 is to protect the criminals. Others say that SB 54 makes schools, hospitals, and libraries safe places. This is another ridiculous, fear-mongering lie. With
Thank you
or
for your
without
comments.
SB 54, there'll be no raids.
Yolanda Torres, followed by George Miller, followed by Jeffrey Burnham. Yolanda Torres went home? Okay. George Miller, followed by Jeffrey Burnham, followed by Mike Barrett.
Good evening, council, staff, and the public. Last time I stood before this body was to complain about barking dogs. This is a little bit more serious, and I hope the resolution is better than the barking dogs incident was in 2006. Let's give it a shot. Why do some people here think it's absolutely necessary to follow SB 54, but not U.S. immigration law, which trumps, if you'll excuse the pun, those laws. It's totally mystifying to me. And I got the Cause brochure this morning. I see all those blue signs, those from Cause. And I saw the emotional language. I saw the twisted. I saw conflating immigrants with illegal illegal criminal aliens, which is what we're talking about tonight. And I have to agree with Mr. Schopper upon Mr. Pierk's conclusions. I think they're really quite faulty. There are other alternatives besides what you mentioned, and one of the first ones would be to get an injunction, which would mean we don't have to declare the law unconstitutional before. Isn't that true, sir? Of course it's true, right? I request your action to do whatever you can to repudiate and nullify California's SB 54 sanctuary state bill, the so-called Values Act. It's interesting how legislatures often give laws the exact opposite title of what they're intended to do, isn't it? It is, yeah, definitely, right? It's almost inconceivable that a state would conspire to impede and circumvent constitutional law, but it has, largely without necessary and proper pushback until recently when dozens, Mr. Schopper says 45 cities and 15 counties or something like that. That's a landslide, folks. That's huge because these folks are going up against the power of the state. I hope that you have the courage and the intestinal fortitude and the intelligence to do that too. You'll prove that very shortly. I really hope that you do, right? So let me help you there a little bit. The U.S. Constitution, Article 6, Section 2 says that federal law is supreme. Article 1, Section 8 of enumerated powers says that naturalization or immigration is within the scope. It's not within the state scope. Yet we just placidly accept the conclusions of the state, even though it's ridiculously
Thank you for your comments.
illegal. Thank you very much.
Jeffrey Burnham, followed by Mike Barrett, followed by Hector Moreno.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Council. My name is Jeffrey Burham. I'm running for Congress against Julia Brownlee in our district, and that's why I'm here this evening. I'm also a Desert Storm and Cold War veteran, a retired Air Force major, Air Force Academy graduate, and assistant professor. I would like you to do the following. Take actions 4, 6, 7, 8 immediately, because it endangers our citizens and our law enforcement and our law-abiding immigrants. All right, so here's the problem that we've got. We need immigrants, but we have all kinds of social problems. Illegal immigrants cost us $296 billion a year, and there's 30 million of them according to the Department of Homeland Security. So I'm going to ask you, as all policymakers, how should you make your decision? Would staying with SB 54 help you manage illegal aliens, or would it hurt your efficacy in dealing with these people? Because you all know that we have the lowest quality of life, the highest taxes, the highest poverty, and illegal aliens are contributing to this. So why not follow the law, particularly when they commit crimes? So also ask yourself, are you with the taxpayers and the citizens, or are you with the illegal alien criminals? Are you for the Constitution, or are you for this preposterous state law that will not pass any constitutional requirements whatsoever? And by the way, not only is it going to go to the Supreme Court, besides the Ninth Circuit, but it's already gone through the House of Representatives and is sitting in the Senate now to terminate sanctuary entities. So which side of the law, which side of history are you going to be on? And hopefully it's with us.
Thank you for your comments. Mike Barrett, followed by Hector Moreno, followed by Mark Lisagor.
Good evening, Mayor. Most of you know me. My name is Mike Barrett. My wife Sherry and I have been Camarillo homeowners since 1980, and we currently own 2 properties in Camarillo. We raised our children, and they all went through Camarillo schools. Nearly 50 years ago, I swore an oath to support and defend the Constitution when I was commissioned as a naval officer. I speak to you today to ask you to follow the lead of Simi Valley and other California cities and counties who have decided to follow the Constitution by choosing option 4 or 6 of your options. The Federalist Papers offered explanations for the Constitution in the time that it was being ratified. Alexander Hamilton in Federalist 78 wrote, "No legislative act contrary to the Constitution can be valid. To deny this would be to affirm that the representatives of the people are superior to the people themselves. Where the will of the legislature declared in its statutes stands in opposition to the people declared in the Constitution, the judges ought to be governed by the Constitution." We can't have states with different immigration laws. It just doesn't make any sense. Our constitutional republic depends on the rule of law. The attorney told all the things about the lawsuits. I won't go into them, but the federals, right now, we cannot tell federal agents when an immigrant will be released from jail or prison, and we cannot transfer an illegal immigrant directly into federal custody without a warrant, with the exceptions noted by the attorney. We all know that SB 54 will ultimately be struck down. Aside from the constitutional issues, we the people do not want Camarillo to have a Kate Steinle murder in our community. She'd be alive and well today if the illegal immigrant who shot her had been turned over to ICE instead of released in the streets of San Francisco. Our children and grandchildren are being put at risk by this insane law.
Thank you for your comments. Hector Moreno, followed by Mark Lisagor, followed by Jean Kohut.
Good evening, Charlotte, Graven, Mayor, Tony, and all of you City Council members. Thank you very much for allowing me to talk to you. I want to tell you about SB 54, that is totally unconstitutional, and it's horrible that I cannot believe it that U.S. citizens stand for that atrocity. What they're trying to do to our country, dividing it. They're pitting us against each other, because how can they play down a murder? One murder of a U.S. citizen is too many by an illegal alien. I don't want to go to all the hundreds of them that have been killed, or thousands, by an illegal alien. Illegal aliens are illegals, and they're criminals since the moment they cross the border. That is illegal. In addition, they go with identity theft, because they're going to go do their fake IDs, their fake Social Security numbers, or stealing somebody else's Social Security numbers. Those are federal offenses, and they're felonies. How can people say that they're so little angels? How can they say that with a straight face? It's all lies. I'm a Mexican. I'm a naturalized USA citizen. For the last 40 years, I've been going back and forth to Mexico. I've never been harassed by, like they say, by the immigration or the police or nobody. I don't look white. I don't have blue eyes. They don't harass me. Nobody ever harassed me. I wish sometimes they would ask me, "Hey, where is your green card?" No, nobody ever bothered to ask me. Even when I came across the border, they say, "Are you a U.S. citizen?" "No, I'm a legal resident." That never crossed my mind, they say. "I thought you were a U.S. citizen." "No, I'm a legal resident yet, but I'm going to be a USA citizen pretty soon." They never harass me.
Thank
It's
you
a
for
lie.
your comments. Mark Lisagor, followed by Jean Kohut, followed by Linda Arauco.
Good evening, council members and my fellow Camarillo Dons and Doñas. Thank you for the opportunity to share my concerns regarding the various options before you tonight. I hope that you, like me, find these attempts by a small but vocal minority at subverting the California Values Act to be both mean-spirited and harmful. It's wrong and it's wasteful to help the federal government to deport millions of people who are integral parts of our communities. These are our neighbors. These are our students in our schools. These are the people we work with and very often rely upon. And many are students in our colleges. They are also a vital part of our economy, and we need to stand up to this administration's hate-filled agenda in the way they've chosen to address what we have, which is a failure to really address immigration policy nationally. We must support these people's right to due process when they're in our communities. Don Adolfo Camarillo was said to have been a kind and generous, caring man in this community. We all honor his legacy, and maybe now is the time to truly demonstrate the respect and appreciation we have for our history and our community's shared culture. Those in some faith-based communities, in trying to decide on the correct moral and ethical path, might go to the question, what would Jesus do? While that might certainly be appropriate here tonight, I would also ask you to consider asking, what would Don Adolfo do? I'm confident that you will all decide that the appropriate response will be either to adopt a resolution in support of the California Values Act or alternatively to decide to take no action whatsoever. In either case, please make this a unanimous decision, a decision upon which we can all be proud in the years that follow.
Thank you for your comments. Jean Kohut, followed by Linda Arauco, followed by Joseph Chan.
Good evening.
Just pull it right down so you can speak into it. Thank you.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Jean Kohut. I've been a resident here for over 13 years. 7 of those years I worked for Pleasant Valley School District. 5 of those years I worked for Sue Sigler. I worked for her at Rancho Rosal, and I worked for her at Las Posas. I was given the responsibility and the honor by Mrs. Sigler of starting up the first after-school child care in Camarillo. So I just want to say that I'm here to encourage you, City Council, to do the right thing and oppose SB 54 in which manner you choose, but we need to speak up. It is sad, but I'm going to introduce you to a Mr. Jose Baca. This is not taken from any right-wing or fringe internet newspaper or writer. This is taken from March 7th, 2018, CBS, Los Angeles News, and the Associated Press. An illegal immigrant wanted on child abuse charges in Ventura County was released from custody in January despite an ICE hold. The Ventura Sheriff's Department confirmed Wednesday that it was searching for 34-year-old Jose Vaca of Moore Park for charges of sexually abusing a 13-year-old and charges of continual sexual abuse of a minor. Investigators thought he had likely fled to Mexico. He was on the loose for 18 months. However, on January 1st, 2018, Vaca was found in Ventura County and arrested on a $100,000 warrant. He was booked into jail but released on bail the following day, January 2nd, despite the fact U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement had previously issued an immigration hold for Baca. According to the Sheriff's Department, deputies did not notify ICE that Baca was in custody because of SB 54, which had taken effect the same day of his arrest, January 1st.
Thank you for your comments.
I'm going to leave these
Linda
and other
Arauco,
articles.
followed by Joseph Chan, followed by Elizabeth Hoskinson.
Hi, Joseph Chan, former resident. Thank you, Your Honorable Mayor and City Council members. I oppose this unconstitutional SB 54. It is a policy because of DACA, which is a failed immigration policy of the Obama administration, which they pushed onto the Trump administration. It is not the Trump administration's fault. And everything he has said about what's going on in Mexico is in their daily Spanish language media every day, every night. Drugs, they even make Spanish language movies about the plight of Central Americans and what they're going through there, all the drugs. If you see in any county, any prison, they are the biggest population in there. Let me tell you about hatred and bigotry. When, you know, in 1968, my parents were denied by liberals legal immigration here. They tried to do the same also to the Vietnamese, Cubans, Venezuelans. There's so many others. Chinese, there's a lot. These aren't the times of President Arthur. It was the Democrats that put the Japanese into internment camps. And it was the Republican Party that welcomed my family. And, you know, it turned out to be Holocaust survivors that sponsored my family. So I don't appreciate these liberals trying to accuse us of being Nazis and white supremacists and whatnot. They need to look in the mirror and to see for themselves. And not all immigrants are bad. Not all illegal and illegal immigrants are bad, but this law is going to protect the illegal immigrants that are doing crimes. There's a lot of the paisas. They're dealing drugs, and they can be in Camarillo, and then they'll be in Salt Lake City the next night. We need to oppose this SB 54, and we need to protect the law enforcement from doing their jobs. It's a sheriff's department. It's not going to take away resources, and they're not going to go out and persecute all those people, innocent people that they say. If you see, it's
Thank you for your comments.
They committed crimes.
Is Linda Orozco here? No, Linda had to go home. Okay, thank you. Elizabeth Hoskinson, followed by Barbara Hensley, followed by Arnold Reyes.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. And I would like to thank all of you for your attention. And I would really like to thank the city attorney. You did a fabulous job, and I want to take home that information. I really do, because I think it needs to get out there for a lot of people. You did a lot of hard work, and it's awesome. Thank you so much. My name is Elizabeth Hoskinson, and I'm a resident of Thousand Oaks. But as the mom of an Eagle Scout, I have spent quite a bit of time in Camarillo, and I want to say I'm thankful for your support of scouting. The Scout House here and all of the things that you do helped my son become an Eagle Scout, so I'm really thankful for all of that. And I have to say, the Scout Law has 12 points, but I'm only going to touch on 3 right now. And the 3 points that I want to talk about are kind, courteous, and brave. I'm hearing a lot of unkind words spoken towards immigrants. Let's remember to be kind. We are all human beings, and we all deserve kindness. Also, we can disagree and still be courteous. I'd really appreciate that. And last, I urge you to be brave and stand up and support SB 54. It is the law in California. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Barbara Hensley, followed by Arnold Reyes, followed by Michael Smith.
Hi, my name is Barbara Hensley. I've been in Camarillo for 40 years. And one thing I've learned, that hatred is not a family value. I'm overwhelmed by what I've heard here this evening, and I'm sometimes at a loss for words. I'm taking some information from the Policy Institute, Economic Policy Institute. I'll try not to bore you too much. There's 44 million immigrants that live in the United States. There are 11 million living in California, and half of that are workforce. People are not illegal. That's documentation talking. According to the California State Controller, Betty Yee, unauthorized immigrant labor is worth more than $180 billion. That's worth a B to Californians. Try fixing potholes with that, without it. If you want to talk about oaths, let's do an oath. Be without fear in the face of your enemies. Be brave and upright, that God may love thee. Speak the truth always, even if it leads you to your death. Safeguard the helpless, and do no wrong. That is your oath. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Arnold Reyes, followed by Michael Smith, followed by Miguel Rodriguez.
Peace be with you. Madam Mayor, council members, and staff. It's been said out here, what side of history are you going to be on? My question has to deal with what side of eternity are you going to be on? I follow a God that tells me that I ought to love him above all and to love my neighbor. And my connection with him is based on my love for neighbor. And My personal feeling would be in support of Senate Bill 54. But I think the proper disposition would be that you take a resolution in essence that you just let the courts judge. Ultimately, we will all be judged. And it will be judged by the laws that are written in our hearts. And what I ask of you today is truly draw a resolution that will end it today. Just say, we're not going to take a position, and just leave it as such, and let the courts take their place. We talk about police. I am a volunteer fire chaplain for the county fire department. I went to an infant death situation at Camarillo State Hospital after leaving Mass one day. And it was, I would assume it was an immigrant child. I didn't ask. The police were deeply affected on a human level. And I got a chance to meet them again a little later on. So it goes beyond right and wrong to an ultimate truth. And the truth is that we were affected on a human level. I compliment the police department for their effective work and what they've done. My son, a policeman himself, and it's my responses to these things, I've come to appreciate more and more that our public servants have to do. And you as public servants, I would ask again that you lead us in a way that is truthful, just for all, and let the courts decide the issue that this city could take.
Mike, thank you for your comments. Michael Smith, followed by Miguel Rodriguez, followed by, I'm sorry, I can't read it. It might be Mitzi Smith.
Good evening. It takes a lot for me to get out of bed when I was throwing up earlier today. But this issue makes me sick, both literally and metaphorically, I guess. It's tired and I want to go home, but this whole evening is very, it's interesting that to see what a group of people who feel strongly about an issue can bring a community together. The hatred that is visible tonight is disgusting. The word fascist keeps coming up in my head. Is this how it happens? I do not support sheltering illegal immigrants who commit crimes whatsoever, nor do I think many people in this room do. The idea that people are here defending criminals is insane. It isn't. It's true. What I would like to ask of the council is that you would remain neutral on this issue. It's not something that, this was brought before you guys by groups who made this an issue. This was not something that is pressing. If the council decides to vote against SB 54, this strikes me as a scapegoat issue. And illegal immigrants, end quotes, are being scapegoated. I would like the council to also address illegal citizens, those who employ illegal immigrants. Why are we not hearing about them?
Thank you for your comments. Miguel Rodriguez, followed by, is it Mitzi Smith? And then Meadow Walker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, council members, and especially thank you to the city attorney for the great presentation. Camarillo, why not just change the name of the city? Why not do away with the fiesta? Why not just rewrite the motto that's right there that says, Las personas son la ciudad, or the people are the city? Why not just do that? My name is Miguel Rodriguez. I work for Ventura County Behavioral Health, and I'm here as a member of the public, as an individual, as a member of LULAC, and also as a person who sees on a daily basis how some of these anti-immigrant policies directly affect American-born citizen children by forcing and imposing family separation. As you know, we have a center here in Camarillo where some of these children get put up for up to $60,000 per year per child just to be readied for foster homes, costing taxpayers even more money.
I'm here to speak on behalf of them, as they are children and don't have a voice, and as American citizens don't have a voice. My grandmother lived in the senior apartments here on Ponderosa and Mobile, and as a kid she remembered being picked up and deported for looking Mexican while speaking Spanish and living in Idaho. Ironically, my grandma was born in San Benito, Texas. She moved her family to Camarillo because she said it was beautiful, had the best schools, and she felt safe. My dad, when he died, he wanted his final resting place to be the Conejo Mountain Cemetery. And I know that him and my grandma and my grandpa are probably turning in their graves knowing that the city that they loved and worked for so much is being overrun by these right-wing outside instigators and populist arguments and who are trying to bully their way into power. Please consider the deepest feeling of love you have ever felt, perhaps when your children were born, when you graduated college, when you met the love of your life, and when you decided to make a change in the world by seeking public office. I urge you to reconnect with that feeling, as you cannot reason with anger and much less with hate. Support SB 54. For the record, I am a descendant of many immigrants, a graduate of UCLA, and currently in a master's program at USC, and I guess all that makes me an animal to some. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I can't read the writing. Is it Mitzi Smith? Mike Smith? Is there a Mike Smith? I'm sorry. I read too many names tonight. Meadow Walker, Sue Reynolds.
No, Madam Mayor, I'm afraid that I have to take credit for that. I apologize for my chicken scratch. For over 1,000 years, the values of Western civilization have spurred us on to love the stranger. Not just the neighbor, but also the stranger. That comes from the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible. You know what our Western civilization was founded on? Loving the stranger. This includes the angel families among us. Folks, these are families whose loved ones would be living today were it not for their lives being cut down by illegal alien criminals who should have been remanded to ICE, but were not. It's not right. That's not just a legal judgment, that's also a moral judgment as well. Were it not for California SB 54 and other such travesties like it, there are innocent people who would be alive today. You know, this morning I woke up in a place, I'm not going to tell you exactly where for a few reasons. Let's just say it starts with a T, it ends with an S, and it has an X in the middle. And when it comes to constitutionality, well, X marks the spot. Now, if the folks in Sacramento who are at war with themselves really want to draw Camarillo into that, and by default they already have, well, that ought to be Sacramento's problem. That doesn't mean it has to be Camarillo's problem, though. Look, if SB 54 only gives sanctuary to illegal aliens in our jails and prisons already, if that's the so-called answer, how stupid was the question? Okay. Love the stranger, opt Camarillo out of SB 54. What the hell do you have to lose? Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Meadow Walker, followed by Sue Reynolds.
Your hat.
Followed by Danielle Bloom.
I think Meadow is gone.
Meadow, are you here?
She's done.
Sue Reynolds.
Good evening, and I do mean evening. I did not expect to be here this long. I thank you for the opportunity to address you and speak my mind. I believe that the state legislature overstepped their bounds because immigration is not the domain of the state. It's the domain of the federal government. Every individual who serves in the United States, no matter what your position, whether you're in the military or in an office like you folks are, you swear an oath to support and defend the Constitution. And that means that you acknowledge what the Constitution says. And they are in charge of naturalization. So when the state decides that they're going to block communication between the federal government officers and the state people or local police, they have overstepped their bounds. And that's what we are here talking about. We're not here to talk about farm workers and And it's my understanding that 50% of the people in California are Hispanic. So there are other people who are the minority at this point. So I just think that it's safer for law enforcement people, the ICE people, to be able to take custody of people in a safe environment, not to go into the community where it becomes a danger for the community and the officers.
Danielle Bloom, followed by Janine Albamse, Albamse, followed by Jane Germain. Danielle? Jane? You're Jane, okay, come on up. Jane Germain? Okay, we got you.
Thank you for having all of us and giving us all this time, this precious of yours as well as ours. I'm really tired. I'm a mother of 2 teenage sons that attend Camarillo schools. And one of the things I tell my sons, there's no drama in my house, there's a lot of drama in this room tonight, is facts don't care about your feelings. Facts don't care about my feelings. Facts don't care about anybody's feelings in this room. So I'd like to just talk about some facts really quick. I went on uhaul.com earlier today. So I requested a truck to move out of California from Camarillo to Phoenix. The quote I got was $1,250. I decided to get the quote coming back. Same truck, $130. There's no trucks in California anymore. They're all gone. So you pay an extreme premium to just get a truck to get the heck out of here. I am not somebody that's going to cut and run from this state nor from this city, but what's happening right now is very disappointing, and I beg you to take a stand on this. Whether it goes nowhere, so be it, but we have to take a stand on this. We cannot let the Governor Brown and the legislature in Sacramento determine what happens here in our city. It's very clear there are a number of us here that oppose this. So please, just think about that. It's very important to many of us here, and thank you for letting us stay, because there's a lot more of us that oppose this that are going to be coming and talking to you. Thank you.
Rosalind La Liberté, Victoria Curiel, followed by Roberta Sponster.
Thank you for letting me speak today.
Speak right into the mic, please.
Thank you for letting me speak today. But right after this began, and we heard the city attorney, and he put everything up there and said that it has no effect on our law enforcement. And then we heard the city's law enforcement administrator say, yes, it does. We have little things here and there that have changed. So you lost credibility with me right away. Now I'm going to ask you, why are you worried about lawsuits? Why are you worried about things that don't really matter? What matters here today is that we get out of SB 54. It is not for us. It doesn't do anything for us. Don't be lazy. Do your job. Join the other people, the other cities that have opted out, and do this today. That's it.
Thank you for your comments. Victoria Curiel, Roberta Sponsler, Bob Cohennour.
On.
Okay, he left. I got it. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Victoria Curiel. I am a Camarillo voter. I am also a Camarillo mother, and I'm a Camarillo taxpayer. As a mother, recently my daughter was informed that because of the opposition to SB 54, she would be deported, which is completely false because, you know, we are multi-generational. Mexican American, Venezuelan American, French American. So the fact that this rhetoric is affecting my daughter with all these falsehoods is really saddening, especially with our Camarillo, las personas son la ciudad, meaning that the people are the city, including our children, including our farm workers, whether they're documented or not. We just want to support SB 54 as las personas son la ciudad. And it's really late, and I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Roberta Sponsler? Matt Lorimer, followed by Alva Galindo, followed by Barbara Williams.
Keep him on topic. Matt Lorimer. Wow, a career politician created this. There's two kind of groups coming in the United States. There's legal and illegal family members who want a better life. Then there's another group, which are criminals. Tonight, you're city councilman. You heard from the sheriff's department how the rules have changed. You're here as public servants to protect the people of this city. What we're talking about is when you basically kill, murder, rob, small crimes, it doesn't matter. What this law basically says is this isn't about, by the way, the sheriff's department, before this law, after this law, they weren't conducting raids, arresting family members all over Ventura County. They weren't doing that. What this is about is people who commit crimes, and the taxpayers have to pay for people who are illegal, who don't belong here, who commit crimes, who should not be in this country. So that's the question tonight. It's not about family members who come here. It's about people who've committed crimes, and the sheriff's departments all over this state, people in an uproar. You know why? You've heard it on TV. You can filter it out the way you want it, but the bottom line, this is about people committing crimes and killing residents. And you know something? That's what it's really about. And why are so many damn people angry in this state is because the governor uses this a way to basically, does he want more voters? What does the governor want when he created this bill? Because he wasn't keeping the citizens safe in cities across the state. The bottom line, this is about, does the law enforcement have a right to get rid of people who don't live in this country, who commit crimes, and report that? That's the bottom line. That's what the decision is tonight. You're about public safety. Think about that.
Thank you for your comments. Alva Galindo, followed by Barbara Williams, followed by Michael Lotker.
Hi, my name is Alva Galindo. I'm a U.S. Army veteran. I spoke at the last City Council, and I am for SB 54. I wasn't going to speak today, but as I sat in the audience, I knew I needed to be heard. I was born and raised in the heart of the Bible Belt, Kansas, to be exact. And today was the first day that I truly saw hate, and I truly felt it. I'm speechless. I urge you to support SB 54 and let love win. Be brave and do the right thing, and know that no human being is illegal. In my hand, I hold up a book. This is my father on the cover of this book. It was written in the 1980s, and it's called Sanctuary, the New Underground Railroad. Think what that means to you. This is my father. This is about my family. I urge you to be on the right side of history. I leave you with this quote: racism is still with us, but it is up to us to prepare our children for what they have to meet, and hopefully we shall overcome. That was said by Rosa Parks. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Barbara Williams, followed by Michael Lotker, followed by Rachel Tom.
Barbara Williams. I live in Camarillo, and I have a say in what you do tonight, not those who don't live in Camarillo. I've lived here for a year in 1958 and 59, and 40 years ago, my husband and I bought our first home in Camarillo to raise a family in a safe environment. The only valid choices you have are number 4, adopt a resolution in opposition, or 6, to direct the city attorney to submit the amicus in opposition. Doing nothing says you don't care about our safety. Public safety is suffering due to SB 54. By not allowing ICE notifications of release of felonious illegal aliens, ICE is now forced to seek out these felons that need to be deported and coming into our communities. SB 54 requires a warrant for local law enforcement to cooperate with ICE. With the courts backed up and a shortage of judges, in essence, California is blocking any attempt by ICE to get felonious illegals when they are released. There are a significant number of citizens in Camarillo victimized by those released from custody. The most infamous case is the murder of Kate Steinle. I talked to a mother whose son was killed on his way to work by an illegal alien. The illegal was driving without a license and had been deported, but was back in California. She was brokenhearted that a criminal was allowed to live here and kill her son. For those of you who support SB 54, you are saying the safety and welfare of legal citizens are not as important as a criminal who entered our country illegally. You are saying gang members such as MS-13, drug dealers, people who steal, people who beat and rape others, and people who shoot innocent victims need to be protected from deportation. I don't understand that. I am not a racist, I'm not a bully, and I'm not a fearmonger, and I am a person of faith. I am just against illegal immigrants who have committed other crimes.
Thank you, Barbara.
We welcome all people here.
Matt Lotker, followed by Rachel Tom, followed by Leonore Ferris.
I'm Rabbi Michael Lotker, and I've been a resident of Camarillo, and I've been a rabbi here for about 20 years. I'm also chairman of a local interfaith council. You know, we Jews and Christians take the Bible seriously. We Jews and Christians take commandments seriously. I often hear people praying that God be on our side. I would rather we pray that we be on God's side. You know, the most repeated commandment in the Hebrew Bible, in the Old Testament, is repeated 36 times, and that is to protect the vulnerable and powerless in society, specifically not to oppress the stranger. There's a bunch of commandments about love. You know, we're not commanded to love our parents. We're not commanded to love our children or even our grandchildren. We're not even commanded to love our spouses. We are commanded to love God. We're commanded to love our neighbor. We're commanded to love the stranger. And in the Hebrew Bible, the Jews are even commanded to love the Egyptians. It is that love that opened our nation to wave after wave of immigration. Sometimes it's really hard to know what the right thing to do is. That's why they're called commandments and not suggestions. My support for SB 54 reflects my desire and obligation to comply with God's most repeated commandment. And we Jews have a special stake in this, because in every nation, except thank God for this nation, we have been declared illegal immigrants, even though many of us have been born in those nations. As others have mentioned, America is watching us. But more importantly, God is watching us. Because in the words that opened this meeting tonight, we are one nation under God.
Thank you for your comments. Rachel Tom, Leonore Ferris, Willie Lubka.
Good evening. My name is Rachel Tom, and I am a resident of Moore Park. Every month in our country, tens of innocent American children were shot down and murdered, and not by illegal immigrants. I understand that many people have said that SB 54 make them concerned about public safety, but as what you have seen presented by the city attorney, the California Values Act Senate Bill 54 is a state law which builds on an earlier Californian law that provides protections for immigrants. And that is the California values. It really does not change anything that has not been existing in California. I am among the fortunate people who have called Ventura County home. We have lived and worked in Ventura County for the last 26 years. The reasons that make us choosing Ventura had been and still are the reason that make Ventura great. Our county has had several cities that were rated among the safest cities in the nation, and Camarillo was one. We have lived among Californians that come from different backgrounds and origins, and our county and cities continue to be the best harmony, the safest, the cleanest towns and the cities of the state. We must have done something right. Why now we plan to change that and bring fears and mistrust to our own residents and neighbors? Camarillo and most Ventura County are agriculture towns, and no doubt most of our revenues brought in through the farming and farm workers. Why would we want to bring fears to our own people, our own workers, who play an important role in our economy?
Thank you for your comments. Lenore Ferris, followed by Willie Lubka, followed by William Hubbard.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. My name is Lenore Ferris, and I'm legal immigrant, and I came here 60 years ago. Single parent, I raised 5 kids on my own. I never collect welfare. 1 month I collect food stamps. And illegals here, they come here for 30 years, and they never apply for green card. It's a permit to work in this country. So why? It's a slap in my face. And all the immigrants, legal immigrants, they went through waiting, applying for immigration, and all the requirements of the health certificate, and all those things that they require immigration laws. And why they come here in front of us and become automatically citizens, or collect welfare, collect all those things, and also separate me from my grandson. My grandson, I was separated from my grandson for life. They, MS-13, killed my grandson 4 years ago. Then I didn't know what MS-13. At the side of my grandson, dead, right there when they killed him, it was MS-13. At that time, I didn't know what MS-13. Now I know. This is my point. Why? Why they killed my grandson? Separate their families because they went to another country? They're going to separate it? No. I never going to see my grandson again. And God bless America and make California great again. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Willie Lubka, followed by William Hubbard, followed by Kelly McCabe.
Good evening, City Council. Thank you for staying up so late, past many of our bedtimes. Much appreciated. I live in Thousand Oaks. My name is Willie Lubka, and although I'm not a resident of Camarillo, I'm here as a neighbor. My family and I come to Camarillo frequently to shop, to dine, to patronize your movie theaters, to visit friends here. I own a small business, and one of my employees lives here in Camarillo. My kids went to the UPS school and had a wonderful experience, and we schlepped down the hill and back up every day because it was such a wonderful school. My kids are going to college now, and my wife and I are thinking of downsizing our house and have thought about moving here. We've always thought of the city of Camarillo as a charming, beautiful town. I want to encourage you tonight, please don't do anything to change that. If the City Council were to take an action opposing the California Values Act, I would interpret that as a deliberate and unnecessary decision in the name of this city to step on people's toes that you don't have to do. Why would you do it? Those toes would include mine. I'm a proud descendant of immigrants. I support SB 54. I don't understand why any city leaders who are responsible to be stewards of their community would voluntarily decide to make a purely political statement, despite knowing full well that many of the people they serve would find that statement repugnant. It seems obvious that would hurt the city's reputation and would repel many of the people who you really want to be attracting here. Please don't do that. Thank you for hearing my input.
Thank you for your comments. William Hubbard, followed by Kelly McCabe, followed by Frank Rodriguez. William Hubbard, Kelly McCabe, Frank Rodriguez.
Hello, thank you, Mayor and City Council of Camarillo. My name is Frank Rodriguez. I'm part of CAUSE, the Central Coast Alliance United for a Sustainable Economy. Whew. And thank you to the Mayor for civilizing the debate, because we know it's a very emotional debate, and that's what this institution of a City Council is about, is to calm this down. So I really appreciate how for every comment you've been saying thank you to everybody. I really think that's for us to be able to look at people we don't agree with in the eyes and tell them we love them, and that we want to have a civilized debate. So I really do appreciate that. And thank you to the city attorney for really breaking down what this debate is about, and really focusing on the debate between the state government and the federal government, where this issue is really being debated. And because we do have a competent state governor with Governor Brown, with our state senator Brownlee, and with our Assemblywoman Jackie Irwin, and we really want to make sure that that debate happens, and really focus on that, because, and responding, sorry to jump forward a little bit, responding to the issue about criminals and criminality, what a lot of us, especially the younger generation, the sons and daughters of immigrants that I'm descendant of, support is that we really want the due process of local law enforcement to take action. When we're talking about criminals, criminals are not just illegals, right? Criminals can come in any shape and color, any person, and what we want to make sure is that someone is not afraid to come forward if they've faced domestic violence, that they approach the sheriffs or their police in a way that they feel safe to talk about. And we want the debate between the state and the federal government to take place, because we know this is a very partisan, emotional debate, but what we support is a debate that's happening today in which we're listening to both sides, but we want to be treating people as humans and people that we support. So I really appreciate for your time and being here so late.
Thank you for your comments. Georgette Hadvina, followed by Julie Martinez, followed by Rich Gardner.
Good evening. My name is Georgette Hadvina, and I live here in Camarillo. And I am certainly not against immigration. After all, most of the legal immigrants made this country great. I am very against illegal immigration. I legally immigrated here with my country, my family, many decades ago. My legal immigration process went through an orderly and lengthy manner, screening us. They were screening us medically, criminally. My uncle, who sponsored us, had to make full financial responsibility for us. I really resent that people put illegal and legal immigrants in one group, because it's not so. Today, millions of people from all over the world are waiting in line, and some of them for years, to have a chance to come here legally. And there are some people that they just walk through the border. It's not fair for them. I'm sure most of the illegal are nice people, but we don't know that all. We know that some of them are not. We have no clue who they are, what illness, bad intention, or what kind of drugs they bring in. We cannot simply discard the federal system, our values, our rights as a nation to protect our borders and not be able to select who is coming in. However, if the majority of the people in U.S. wants to have a complete open border, then let's change the law democratically, but not break it.
Thank you for your comments. Julie Martinez, followed by Rich Gardner, followed by Tim Helton.
Good evening. I'm your neighbor from Moore Park. Although I don't live in Camarillo, I absolutely do love this city. I chose this city because Padre Serra was the church that I chose to raise my children in the Catholic faith. In addition to that, I raised my kids playing soccer here in Camarillo. They started off in AYSO, and they continued through club. And my oldest daughter won a scholarship earned a scholarship to UCLA to play soccer. So thank you, Camarillo. My husband was also a club soccer coach. My husband could not be here due to a work schedule issue. My husband is a 31 veteran of the LAPD. He texted me a really quick message and asked that I share this with you. I'm a 31-year veteran of LAPD, and I support SB 54 because this California law creates safe communities for both residents and for law enforcement personnel. He left me with SB 54 is a pro-law enforcement law. Please, I urge you, stick to the facts, not manufactured fear. Our California State Assembly person, Jackie Irwin, voted yes. Look at her record. She has one of the most pro-law enforcement records of California Assembly persons. Check it out. Senator Henry Stern also voted yes on SB 54. Listen to what part of this law says. It creates a relationship of trust between California's immigrant residents and our state and local agencies, including police, schools, and hospitals. It is essential to carrying out basic state and local police functions. California schools, hospitals, and courthouses will remain safe and accessible. I'd like to leave you with one point. I actually did speak with Sheriff Dean on this issue for over an hour. When I asked him what was a percentage of crime committed by illegal aliens, as he put
Thank you for your
less than 1%.
Rick Gardner, followed by Tim Helton, followed by Terry Helton.
As you can say, it says right.
Hello, I'm Rick Gardner, and I'm a 36-year resident of Camarillo. I'd like to speak in support of Senate Bill 54, the California Values Act. Seems to me that we need this bill to help the people and families who have been disenfranchised by our lack of an effective agricultural worker program. Government and ag businesses have had a de facto agreement for decades to import undocumented workers from south of the border. The workers are expected to somehow make their way into this country and are then hired to do backbreaking work that Americans refuse to do. We all know it. We see them toiling in farm fields every day. Now there's a push by the federal government to punish these undocumented workers and the families. It was okay to have this de facto agreement with business interests. When it comes to people, we're told how important federal immigration law is, how we need to protect our borders, how we need to deport the so-called illegals, even if they've spent most of their lives here. I think it's hypocritical and inhumane. This does not reflect the values of California. That's why SB 54 is called the California Values Act. It ensures that no state or local resources are diverted to fuel any attempt by the federal government to carry out mass deportations, that our schools, our hospitals, and our courthouses are safe spaces for everyone in our community. After hearing the city attorney, it is clear to me that SB 54 is a reasonable law that distinguishes between federal immigration enforcement and the state and local communities, which are not tasked with immigration enforcement. Exceptions are made for hardened criminals to provide for cooperation between state and localities, federal immigration authorities. Now, we know what California values are. What are the values of Camarillo? Are we a caring community that provides for all of our people, including our growing minority population? Are we a community that seeks to divide its residents into groups of haves and have-nots, seeks to create an atmosphere of anxiety?
Thank you for your comments, sir. Tom Helton, followed by Terry Helton, followed by Elsa Aldegur.
My name's Tim Helton, and I also can't write very well.
I am a 26-year resident of Camarillo, voted in every election since during that period of time, and I am a founding member and co-chair of Ventura County Interfaith Community and a secretary of Campus Interfaith. And I want to speak in favor of Senate Bill 54 for two reasons. First of all, it's hard for me to imagine that the community will be safer when the immigrant community is unwilling or afraid to report crimes to the police department. And secondly, and more importantly, because it resonates with me that history will judge us on how we treat the most vulnerable in our midst. Thank you very much.
Terry Helton, thank you for your comments. Terry Helton, followed by Elsa Aldegor, followed by Sally Starr.
Hi, I'm Terry Helton, and I verify his writing is horrible. So, thank you for allowing us to speak, me to speak. I am the co-chair of the Ventura County Interfaith Community, and I have lived in Camarillo for 26 years. We raised our kids here from middle school and high school up. And I am a proud resident of this community. I have voted every election. I am grateful for the ability to express my opinion. And I also want to say that I support the right of others to express their opinions. And because of our Constitution, and because that allows us to do it. And that Constitution has set something for us for over 200 years. But there was a time in the 1800s where people traveled an underground railroad against the law. People harbored them in the northern part of the United States against the law, against that Constitution. And they went. They left slavery because it was abusive, because they were slaves, because their families were torn apart. And I see a semblance here that people are leaving countries because they are distressed, because they're in dangerous situations, because sometimes they're enslaved, because they just want to feed their families. I am in support of SB 54 because it is the right thing to do, and it will leave us standing in history, whatever we choose to do, as we stand in history from the 1800s. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Elsa, how do you pronounce your last name?
Aldiger.
Okay, thank you. Just pull the mic down and you'll be fine.
Good evening, Council. My name is Elsa Aldiger, and I'm here to speak on behalf of Latinos for Trump and also Make California Great Again. And I just want to share that I am originally from El Salvador. My entire family immigrated here in 1989. We all became citizens. And when we became citizens, we learned that there's a supreme law, and that's not Sacramento. We have a constitution, and all of you guys are public servers. You're supposed to be on our side, not with the illegals. And another thing, this has nothing to do with children. This has nothing to do with immigration. This has nothing to do with being racist. I'm not racist. My son is half black. My cousin is half Persian, so we're not racist. This has nothing to do with skin color. This has to do with law and order. We cannot pick and choose our laws. So if we are picking and choosing our laws, what makes you think that the criminals are going to follow the laws? They're not. And if you do nothing about it, you're actually allowing all the criminals to come here, to Camarillo. If I was a criminal, I would feel welcome here. I would be killing all your family members. And I would be like, I'll be protected. So your job is to be with us, with the people. I have thousands of people that tell me constantly, please, Elsa, speak on our behalf. This is not about the illegals. This is about law and order. Please do what's right, do the right thing, and stick up for we, the people. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Sally Starr, followed by Mindy Froelich, followed by Ed Miller.
Sally had to leave, it looks like.
Sally Starr, Mindy, followed by Ed Miller, followed by Barb Miller.
Sally left.
Wow, I've waited a long time to get here. Council, thank you for your service and for entertaining this exhausting dialogue. This is our duty. This is your duty to promote our democracy. And I appreciate all sides of what I've heard tonight. Our actions tonight are largely symbolic. Mainly, your actions are largely symbolic. Therefore, I'm asking you to send a clear message. I'm asking you to please choose to communicate that all citizens can trust the public servants in the city of Camarillo. Please resolve to support the California Value Act. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Ed Miller?
No? Oh, here he comes.
Followed by Barb Miller, followed by Rhonda Baldwin Kennedy.
Good evening. Ed Miller, and as most of you know, I've lived here in Camarillo and served Camarillo on the Planning Commission for some time.
Yep.
I had written a bunch of comments, but listening to both sides of the issue this evening, both sides have spoken very well. The only thing I want to do is let you know that I support 45. I have always been proud of this city, and as I've been on my wanderings around different places, and people ask where I'm from, I say Camarillo and hold my head high. And it's always been a pride to me. I hope that what you do tonight by supporting 45 will 54. Let me go about my business and about the state and still say I can hold my head high. Thank you.
Ed, you meant 54, right?
I'm sorry. I've always been a little dyslexic.
Just wanted to make sure we're talking about the same one.
Thank you.
Because I don't know what 45's about. Okay. Barb Miller, followed by Rhonda Baldwin Kennedy, followed by Mandy Jacob.
And he's a banker. No wonder we don't balance. Anyway, I've listened to the comments tonight, and one of the things that I'm coming up away with is how extreme we are painting the immigrants to be. And it seems to me that there's a pretty good-sized middle ground that we're avoiding. The current treatment of our immigrants was sold to the public by saying it would be for our public safety. It doesn't do that. Our current treatment of the immigrants is unkind, sometimes in violation of the Constitution and of our ethics, and simply doesn't make sense. We need to do better. And while it's true that we need somehow to address the immigration problem, we need to provide sanctuary and safety for these people until we figure it out. Excuse me. Our immigration policies are throwing the baby out with the bathwater. We want to get rid of the bad guys, but we're getting rid of good people too. And we're hurting them in ways that we shouldn't tolerate. From last October to March, only about 2/3 of those arrested by ICE had about 2/3 had no criminal convictions, but they were arrested anyway, as if they did. We are no longer deporting people who just crossed the border. New data shows that the government is targeting immigrants who've been here for years. We are deporting immigrants who have served in our military. We are separating children from their parents when they cross the border and holding them in separate facilities. Apparently our government has managed to lose about 1,400 of them. They don't know where they are, and I tried to research to see what was happening, and I couldn't find anything. And we're arresting U.S. citizens by...
Thank you for your comments. Rhonda Baldwin Kennedy, followed by Mandy Jacob, followed by Merrill Berge.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for bearing with us this evening. As I sat here for the last few hours listening to people compare criminal illegals to the Underground Railroad, Rosa Parks, it's kind of insulting to me as an African-American woman. And let me tell you about history. My great-great-great-grandfather was a runaway slave who was a water boy in the Civil War. My great-grandfather was the first African-American state assemblyman for the state of Wisconsin. And after all of that service, what happened was my uncle was murdered by an illegal immigrant who was here and had police contact 3 times. This is not about illegal immigration. This is about the criminal element of an illegal immigration. And I would ask the speakers who are for SB 54, have you actually talked to the illegal immigrant community? I have. I'm a practicing attorney, and a lot of my clients are not here legally, and I help them gain citizenship. And there's a little thing called the U visa. So if you're a victim of a crime and you report it, and you can apply and get a U visa. So the fact that illegal immigrants don't want to communicate with the police is false. They do want to communicate with the police because if they do, they possibly can qualify for a U visa. Additionally, why would you communicate and talk to the police and snitch on an illegal criminal like a MS-13 gang member when the police are just going to let him out of jail? What do you think they're going to do? They're going to go right back to the person who snitched on him and put him in the jail in the first place. So if you were an illegal in the community, would you want to communicate and talk to the police and inform with the police? No. So I wish that you guys would use facts. And I heard terms like hard workers, picking the fruit in the fields and breaking backs. That sounds vaguely familiar. That's the same thing they said about slavery when they were out in the fields picking cotton. So I would ask you all to call us racist to look in the mirror when you use your terminology. Thank you.
Thank you for... I'm sorry, but we don't clap. We don't boo. Thank you for your comments. Mandy Jacob, Merrill Berge, followed by Kathy Crook.
Thank you so much for listening to me tonight. I wanted to just go ahead and tell you that, do you know, we could have actually cut this meeting short by 1 hour and 10 minutes. You know why? We had 34 speakers pro SB 54. Do you know that here, I wrote the statistics in my scratch. Out of those 34, 28 spoke about loving illegal immigrants. Well, I'm sorry, please read SB 54. It is not about illegal immigrants. It's about illegal immigrant felons and putting them back on the street. So there we go. That was 28 out of the 34 that we can just discount. The hatred, well, I'm sorry to say, the way we're speaking here about loving and no laws, we're actually looking at an anarchy. So if that's the kind of city you want to live in, I don't think you can call yourselves American citizens. I'd also like to address the attorney. Thank you so much for all your hard work. Unfortunately, it was completely biased, and I'd love to know what actually happens after this, because you guys have not been filled in on the other side. I've also spoken to the sheriff, and I know I've spent copious amount of hours with police enforcement. This ties their hands. And just having an attorney that it is easier, and most of the pro people said it's much easier for you to do nothing. But as Edmund Burke said, all it needs for evil to succeed is for good people to do nothing. They've called you brave, and brave to do nothing, again, please, we ask you, we are begging you, we're the people, are asking you to stand up and take a stance. I don't want to get into the emotions because, again, 88% of them spoke about emotions. I'm just going to talk facts. Do you know that GOA reported in 2009 that 8 convictions were the average per inmate? Okay, they have a recidivism rate of 50%. We have, this costs the taxpayers of Ventura County, just Ventura County alone, $13 million. That means each individual is paid,
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Merrill Berge, followed by Kathy Crook, followed by Barry Dodd. Sir, in the back, just a minute, please. When you raise your sign, the people behind you back there are doing this. They can't see. So could you please not raise your sign? I've asked that several times. Sorry. Please
All right.
proceed.
Hello, City Council members, Mayor, Attorney, and staff. Thank you so very much for all the work and time that you have put into this. I am here in support of SB 54, but I urge you to take a neutral stance. This is exactly the kind of situation that the courts and our justice system has been established to deal with. This is not something, considering how divisive and how emotional and how equally heartfelt people feel about this issue, that we need to wade into the middle of. This is our community. We are not being impacted by this situation. This is something that needs to be settled by the courts. And I urge you to take and do no harm and take a neutral stance. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Kathy Crook, followed by Barry Dodd, followed by Robert Loughton.
My name is Kathy Crook. I've lived here for 28 years, raised my son here. He graduated from the schools here, became an Eagle Scout in Troop 225. Mr. Tremblay, Ms. McDonald, you spoke at his Eagle Court of Honor. I'm here in support of SB 54. I've been listening. I came here mainly to listen, and I've been listening to the comments from both sides. And I urge you to either be in support of SB 54 or to remain neutral. I urge you not to divide this community among the people who are speaking against immigrants, even though they say they're speaking about criminals. To many people, all you have to do is come here illegally, and that makes you a criminal, even if you commit no criminal act. But
sorry,
you are here as a person who is working hard out in the fields, and if you eat, you're employing undocumented workers. And if you buy groceries in the grocery store, you are employing undocumented workers. And I think it's a hypocrisy for this city to say that we are not going to support our undocumented workers. And if they feel fear, too much fear to approach law enforcement, too much fear to witness, too much fear to bring their children to the health center, too much fear to give their children free lunch, then you are creating that fear and you are dividing our community. And I urge you not to do this. And I'm wearing red, white, and blue because you can be a patriot and have any point of view, and I resent those people who seem to think that if we stand up for SB 54, we are not patriotic. Patriots stopped slavery. Patriots stopped Jim Crow laws. Patriots got women the vote.
Thank you for your comments. Barry Dodd, followed by Robert Loughton, followed by Richard Castanero. Barry Dodd, Robert Loughton, Richard Castanero. I'm sorry, which one were you?
I'm Robert Loughton.
Okay, sorry.
Okay. Foreign agricultural workers.
Just a minute. We're going to start you again.
Okay.
As people are leaving, please be quiet and give respect to the speakers. Thank you. Please start again.
Okay. Foreign agricultural workers receive a work permit. It's in every immigration bill. Please pass your resolution. A major problem with SB 54 that was not mentioned by your city attorney is, quote, California Enforcement Agency shall not provide information regarding a person's release date. Absent the release date, ICE agents are forced into the workplace or community to find the illegal alien that committed a serious crime. During an ICE raid, everyone is questioned. An illegal alien that did not commit a crime, minor or major, is subject to deportation during an ICE raid. Quoting from your resolution, Section 2, the Camarillo City Council is opposed to provisions in the California Values Act that conflict with California law and/or California Constitution, and urges the California legislature to repeal those provisions. There is no chance for a lawsuit. You're not opting out, and your resolution is pretty mild, and so you should pass it. Quoting from the Orange County Sheriff, SB 4 legislation specifically prohibits law enforcement community to immigration with custom enforcement under release date. This provision of the law is the likelihood of dangerous offenders being released back into the community.
I'm sorry, I was looking at time. Your time is up, sir.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you for your comments. Richard Castanero, followed by Dallas Rippey, and after that we'll take another 10-minute break.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name's Rick Castanero. I am the district director for LULAC, Ventura County. And tonight I'm here, I'm surprised that our council here in Camarillo is taking on a state law. I think our tax dollars might be able to be used in a more productive manner by focusing on things that are going on in our county and our city. We have a lot of issues here that we need to look at. And to go out of our way to take on something at the state level, I'm surprised. Local officials cannot defy state law. SB 40 is enforceable to all public officials in the state of California. It does not prohibit federal immigration officials from enforcing federal immigration law in the state of California. Rather, it prohibits California officials, of which includes all local officials, from cooperating with federal immigration officers. The undocumented community is a critical part of our community. They contribute over $11 billion to our national economy every year. They also contribute $3.2 billion to California. Now, I grew up working in this city since I was about 10 years old. I've dug ditches that are about 300 yards long, and I've helped install wrought iron gates that go all the way around homes with acres of land. And I am shocked that this divisive issue has come here today. I come from a family of immigrants, and I tell you, I appreciate...
Done. Dallas Rippey, please. He left. Okay, one more speaker, Dave Rodriguez. And then we'll take our break.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Dave Rodriguez. I'm a resident of Camarillo for about 12 years. I'm a former national officer in the League of United Latin American Citizens, an 89-year-old advocacy organization based in D.C. with offices right here in Camarillo. I'm just absolutely shocked, even for a civil rights guy that's been in the business for 35 years, at what I heard here tonight. I rise today to express my support for SB 54 and express my concern over what I see as a planned attempt to divide our community. This is a community of churches, schools, and persons from all walks of life and cultures. It would be a shame, Madam Mayor, if tonight's action were to change all of that. We simply don't need the headache in our peace-loving, wonderful community. This is no longer a tiny speck of a community in the large map of California. It's a thriving city that attracts business here and families, people to raise their families. We need to act like it. This is no longer just the corner drugstore and a gas pump like it was in the 70s when I first saw Camarillo. We have responsibilities now with major multinational corporations represented at the Outlet Mall just across the freeway. People come from all over the world to shop here. Unfortunately, there are some who harbor hate and seek to divide us. I urge you to keep us whole and not allow a few dark souls to infiltrate our community for a short-term political statement. It is us that will be stuck with the baggage, not them. May God have mercy on their souls.
Thank you for your comments. We will take a 10-minute recess. I have 11:39 by the atomic clock, and we'll be back at 11:49.
Hey, hey.
Next speaker is Adam Vela, David Michael Smith, and Angus Simmons. Adam Vela.
I think that's her. No?
I think Adam's a guy, Mike.
Oh. I thought there was one name, Adam Zala, last name.
Yes, sir. You ready?
Yeah, let me just dial in the mic.
Okay.
Is this appropriate?
That's right.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor, Council, Vice Mayor, City Attorney, and staff. My name is Adam Vega. I'm a lifelong resident of Ventura County, and I've been a resident of Camarillo for over 13 years. I live and vote in Camarillo, and I support SB 54, as does our county sheriff, Jeff Dean. If you vote to oppose SB 54, I would be personally attacked, as I myself have been racially profiled multiple times throughout my time as a member of this community. I have been pulled over, harassed, and questioned for multiple violations, such as skating while brown, driving while brown, and walking the dog while brown. I feel a repeal of SB 54 would increase these types of situations for those of darker complexion like myself. A 2018 analysis of more than 50 studies on immigration and crime in the Annual Review of Criminology confirmed these results, posted in the Camarillo Acorn. Immigrants, as well as legal citizens like myself with darker complexions, are more susceptible to being harassed than their lighter-skinned friends or family, as I mentioned before. While no official criteria can be denoted to differentiate a legal citizen from an illegal citizen, many, including myself, were quick to find out the role in which skin tone played in these reoccurring stops. Attempts to usurp state and federal powers of defining and enforcing policy against non-citizens, in my opinion, is an example of bad policy, but also bad democracy. Again, let us not forget how crucial the role of race plays in outside perceptions of individuals in Camarillo today. I expect my council members to make the right choice in remembering that this isn't a Republican or Democrat issue, nor a right nor left issue, but instead a choice between right and wrong. I am a highly motivated voter and community organizer with CAUSE, the Central Coast Alliance United for a Sustainable Economy, so this issue is of great importance to me, and I will be watching your response closely, and I will not forget it in the 2018 and 2020 elections. Thank you, good night, and God bless.
Thank you for your comments.
Comment was made that Jeff Dean supported.
Okay, we're going to ask
Prop
Mr. Dean
54.
to explain for himself later after all of the... We don't answer in between, so we'll...
In response to Mr. Morgan's questions, because he has asked a lot of people...
Mr. Dean is here, so he'll speak for himself later.
Perfect. You can check the Farm Bureau notes. He said that SB 54 is all good.
Okay. I'm sorry. David Michael Smith.
I think so.
Good evening. This year marks 20 years since I've approached a microphone at the Camarillo City Council meeting, and that speaks well of my confidence of the ability of the councils that we've had since then to provide good government for the city of Camarillo. It's almost time to say good morning to you, so I will cut to the chase. I urge you to vote for option number 1, receive and file this report pending judgments issued by the courts. There are 3 reasons that I support for this, or that I use to support this. Number 1, the City Council is not the venue for determining immigration law or immigration procedures. This is not your You don't have a dog in this fight. You don't have a horse in this race. The second reason is that this is, in fact, a partisan issue, and many people have been brought here tonight because they are partisans and they want to act upon those. This is a fight between the Governor of California and the President of the United States, not with the city of Camarillo. The last reason for supporting taking no action on this is that part of the obligation of a city council member and other people who represent the city, but especially city council members and the mayor, is that all of the things you do in the community set the tone for what this community is like, what it feels like to be a citizen of Camarillo or a resident of Camarillo. This is a city that is hospitable to people, not hostile. I urge you to take action number 1, which is essentially to receive and file the report and await further action from the courts.
Thank you for your comments. Angus Simmons, Renee DeHesa, Jessica Romero.
Honorable Mayor Craven, distinguished members of the council, ladies and gentlemen, I support SB 54. I'm a resident and voter in Camarillo. It is not, according to Chief Beck of Los Angeles, a soft-on-crime bill. He was one of the first to endorse SB 54 when it was passed, and it really just reaffirms the kind of policing they've done in Los Angeles since 1979 with Special Order 40. Now, at the end of the passing of this bill, there was a long discussion about a long list of 800 felonies and wobblers that are on the SB 54 language, where police and detention centers can communicate with ICE and hand over serious felons. And after that, the Police Chiefs Association of California supported the bill. Didn't support, but they withdrew their opposition. And the sheriff of Los Angeles County, Sheriff McDonald, he started out in opposition, but later he said the revised bill will preserve his department's ability to maintain partnerships with federal law enforcement in the fight against gangs, drugs, and human trafficking. And he said, I strongly opposed SB 54 as initially introduced because I viewed it as a threat to public safety. As passed by the legislature, it is a very different bill today. The bill provides protection for immigrants who are in the country illegally, but it also was altered recently at the request of Governor Brown to give local law enforcement more freedom to work with federal immigration officials and to hold individuals for federal authorities if they have been convicted of a felony or other serious crimes.
Thank you for your comments. Renee DeHesa or DeHesa, followed by Jessica Romero, followed by Bruce Boyer.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Renee DeHesa, and I support SB 54. I am a longtime resident of Camarillo. I am a Camarillo Chamber member. I'm a representative of the Democratic Moms of Camarillo. In my 15 years in this city, I have volunteered numerous hours, time, and money to local organizations and groups. I have worked tirelessly to expand the economic opportunities of Camarillo by working with local startups and entrepreneurs. I have volunteered at our local schools. I am a homeowner, a property owner, a business owner, and a mother. I am also a former undocumented immigrant who came at the age of 5, and according to the classifications of those who are in this room to oppose SB 54, I am a criminal as a result because I did not have legal status. Thank you for the thorough and accurate presentation on SB 54. As an attorney, I appreciate the time and thorough legal analysis. What is clear from the presentation is that the city would derive no benefit from taking an opposing position to SB 54. I have heard a lot of the rhetoric from non-residents filling these seats, but not a single reason based on fact or rationale as to why the city should take a position to defy state law. It is clear that if you vote to take on opposing stance on SB 54, you can expect lawsuits and legal challenges, which will cost our city money. I also asked, what precedent are we setting as a city when we pick and choose what state laws we want to follow? What's next on our chopping block? Equal pay? How much money has the city spent already satisfying the whims of a few loud voices? We don't even have our own police department. Whatever we do is not binding on the sheriffs. We are spinning our wheels. Your seat on the city council is not your political ideology pulpit. You are not a partisan body, regardless of your personal beliefs, and your obligation is to make sure that your actions are in the best interest of the city. Do the legal and right thing and uphold.
Thank you for your comments. Jessica Romero, followed by Bruce Boyer, followed by Ramin Parsa.
Jessica.
Jessica Romero. Bruce Boyer.
Good evening. My name is Bruce Boyer, and I'm candidate for sheriff of Ventura County. And I'm actually pleased that Sheriff Dean has made an appearance. The city attorney got one thing quite right. It is the sheriff's policy to be in 100% compliance with SB 54. But let's look at what it says. It says this officer right here enforces federal law, he is subject to prosecution. That would be rebellion. So if some attorney would like to dance around how that's not rebellion, may I suggest otherwise. When you have a state law that criminalizes a law enforcement officer enforcing federal law, yeah, that's pretty much what rebellion is. And there's the chief rebel, Sheriff Dean, back there. That's right. Now, with 58 elected county sheriffs, this should not be the city's problem. You should have an elected sheriff that will hold to their oath of office and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and tell the other rebels that he will not comply with rebellion. That's what I will do as sheriff if I take office January 9th, and I'll make it very simple. I'll turn over every suspected illegal alien to ICE. All means all. We'll let ICE figure it out. I'm not going to have a situation where I'm going to have to explain, unlike Sheriff Dean, who never answers to the public, how law enforcement officers are murdered by illegal aliens or how other citizens are victims of crimes. And I've yet to hear one of the Bleeding Hearts offer up to pay for all the illegals. It's only $9,000 per year per illegal, so Bleeding Hearts, my hat's back there. Contribute.
Thank you for your comments. Rabin Parsa, followed by Katie Rhodes, followed by Jameson Lingle.
Hi. Thank you for waiting all night here, listening to us. I'm here to oppose the bill, SB 54. And I am an immigrant myself. I'm from Middle East, born and raised in Iran, a former Muslim. And I came to U.S. in 2008 as a refugee. And I came here because I ran away from oppression and from tyranny. So I came here to basically live in freedom and democracy. But here what I'm seeing is that so many lawlessness. I lived in Oklahoma for 3 years prior to this. And while I was there, I was respected. I was never harassed. And majority are white people. And never was subject of racism. But when I came to California, I was harassed by liberals for not believing in their own ideas and beliefs. And tonight what I saw was a more emotional appeal and economic. If you hear say, oh, the business says, they say, okay, we need these people because they work for us. Do you know why? Because they're cheap labor. They abuse these people. And they have no place to go. So even President Trump offered to allow the DACA people to stay for 1.8 million people, but the Democrats oppose him because they're not willing to pay for a wall. And it's just crazy because go downtown LA and see the people who have been affected by drugs. I don't think those drugs come from Canada. So then also Kate Steinle, I couldn't believe when I heard that her killer was let go, and just a man who was arrested 6 times and deported and then stole a gun and killed a woman, let go. I mean, just think about it. And I saw a lot of abuse of the Bible. I mean, Leviticus 19:15 says, "You shall not do unrighteousness in judgment. Thou shalt not respect the person of the poor, nor honor the person of the mighty."
Thank you for your comments. Katie Rhodes, followed by Jameson Lingle, followed by Joe Ortiz. Katie. Joe Ortiz. Oh, Jameson Lingle, I'm sorry.
He's sleeping.
Mayor, council, and staff, thank you very much. The first thing I'd like to do is request that the council write a note to my wife, asking her to forgive me for staying out so late. Secondly, I'd like to ask the council to take no position on SB 54. The Ventura County Sheriff has said that they will not change their position regardless of how you vote. The judge has said he's not interested in duplicate briefs. So in actuality, a vote either way will not make a difference. What it will do is send a message. And I'm afraid that to a lot of people, it's going to send the message that in Camarillo, people of color are not welcome. So there are two groups that I'm really concerned in particular about hearing that. The first is the children of Camarillo. 57.6% of the kids in Camarillo and the Pleasant Valley School District are students of color. 38.1% of them are Latino students. So I'm concerned that they're going to hear this vote from the leadership in Camarillo and believe them and their family believe that the leadership in Camarillo does not support them being here. Secondly, I'm concerned about the potential of an economic impact. A lot of our money comes from the Outlet Mall, which comes from Los Angeles, Santa Barbara, and a lot of foreigners that come here to spend money. And I am very concerned, and I think it would be very plausible that an economic effort is put in place to hurt the city if people believe that Camarillo is unwelcoming. And third, I want to do a little, you guys remember Prince Tyson Jordan, our friend from Northwest Hollywood that came in on a bus with a bunch of other...
Crowds on demand.
Exactly, for a house on Avocado Street. The first 2 rows of people here are not from Camarillo. Some of them have been arrested going across the state, instigating conflict at other city council meetings. So I hope you look at the addresses on your cards.
Thank you for your comments. Joe Ortiz, followed by David Pennock, followed by Cynthia Salas.
Hello, Mayor Charlotte and City Council. I'm not going to take a lot of time. It's been an interesting evening. I will share one personal note. I've lived here in Camarillo all my life. First of the family came here in 1905, undocumented. And then the second generation was born here, and then on we went from that group. And not only my family, but people that followed, many veterans that went up to World War II in Korea, especially World War II in Korea, and established themselves here in Camarillo. And here we are. This is a big issue, obviously. SB 54, which I support. And I still have questions. A great presentation this evening, and I'm still going to go back and research and get some more answers to some questions that I have that I don't have the time to ask them here. But I think it would be best for the council to take a neutral position. It's a divisive issue. We do not need to polarize the community in any way. The courts will decide it in due time, whatever that is, next year, 2 years, 3 years down the road. It's too critical of an issue for, I think, you folks to make a decision. I just recommend you take a neutral position and then let the courts decide what may be.
Thank you for your comments. David Pennock, followed by Cynthia Salas, followed by Dura or Aura Young.
Mayor and City Council, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I am a 16-year resident of Camarillo. I'd like to point out that I believe that in the United States we have a long history of law enforcement agencies working together. State, local, and federal agencies work together in the interest of upholding the law and promoting the safety of the public. For example, if you were to get a minor traffic ticket out of state, the home state of California or wherever you live, and have your driver's license, we'll cooperate with the other state to get you to pay that ticket. Otherwise, you're going to lose your driver's license. It may be a minor offense, but the law enforcement agencies work together through an interstate compact. Or what if you have an out-of-state warrant for any kind of offense, burglary, misdemeanor, doesn't matter what it is. If that comes to the attention of law enforcement, then you will be arrested and you will be held until the other state has a reasonable chance to come and pick you up. Bank robbery is a federal crime, handled by the FBI, investigated. If there's a bank robbery here in Camarillo, does that 911 call go to the FBI? No. That's the Ventura County Sheriff's Department. And they will fully cooperate with the FBI when they show up to help solve the crime. If a person breaks the law by coming to this country illegally, and then they go on to break other laws, state or federal, then that's when, and they're arrested, it's only right at that point for them to be referred to ICE for deportation. They have come here illegally, and now they have willfully broken more laws, endangering the public. Good guests don't come uninvited, and if they do come uninvited, they should abide by the rules or else be asked to leave. So I support SB 54. I oppose SB 54, and I encourage you to adopt number 4 and 6.
Thank you for your comments. Cynthia Solis, followed by Dura or Aura Young, followed by Fred McIntosh.
Good evening. My name is Cynthia Salas. I'm a former resident of Camarillo, current resident of Ventura County, current higher education employee in Ventura Community College District. The undocumented community has come under attack by this administration, specifically our students and children. Rather than join the administration in their war on immigrants, we should be locking arms with our immigrant brothers and sisters. We should be saying, we are a land of immigrants and our brothers and sisters belong here. Our streets are safer when the immigrant community do not fear law enforcement. Being a former correctional officer myself, I know exactly what that means. When immigrants feel safe coming forward to law enforcement, more reliable intelligence is given to the law enforcement, which allows them to do their jobs more effectively. Protect immigrants in the name of public safety. We are a community of churches, schools, and businesses that are successful, and taking an anti-immigrant stand is not going to help us. As a former immigrant myself, I am not a criminal. I am not a rapist. I am a former scientist. I'm a graduate of Iowa State University with a biochemistry degree. I currently work in my community. I empower young people to be positive members of their community. So I take this very personally. As somebody that has grown in Ventura County, I love my county. And to see something like this bring our community in a divide is very hurtful. I work in the community college district, and to see the students come to my office distraught, broken, and unsupported because of things like this is very difficult for me as an educator to continue to help them move forward with their goals when I'm trying to deal with mental illness and emotional issues that are impacted by laws such as these. Please, I urge you to do the right thing for our community. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Ms. Young, please tell me how I've mispronounced your name.
I probably wrote it wrong.
No.
Or, D-U-R-A.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, first of all, this has nothing to do with feelings or immigration. It has to do with safety. So all the groups that came here didn't really need to come here because we're talking about safety, the safety of Americans. All right? The federal government has a responsibility of protecting our nation and supporting our Constitution. As a city official, it is your responsibility to protect its citizens. Kevin De Leon wrote the sanctuary state law to prevent immigration enforcement inside of jails for misdemeanor crimes for illegal aliens. The California State Sheriff's Association remains opposed to the bill because it only addresses 80% of the crimes. The other 20% of the crimes committed by criminal illegal aliens is the part to be concerned about. This is a loophole factor of SB 54. The crimes that are not covered under SB 54 are human trafficking, smuggling, narcotic trafficking by drug cartels, domestic violence, and repeat drunk driving. All we are asking is that your local law enforcement communicate with ICE for these types of crimes. California must stop obstructing federal law. The Democrats in power are destroying our constitutional rights as citizens. Every citizen has the right to be protected by federal law. By putting together an amicus brief, your city council will be sending a clear message that you want federal law to supersede California law. Let's get rid of the unconstitutional laws that are put into place without voter approval. We are not responsible for failed nations. I'll repeat that. We are not responsible for failed nations. California taxpayers are spending $23 billion a year in California on illegal aliens alone. We have to take care of our American citizens first, our veterans first, our homeless first, our foster kids first. All right?
Thank you for your comments. Fred McIntosh.
Hello, I'm Fred McIntosh. The California Values Act allows all criminals still under $950 worth of valuables or multiple DUI drivers to get re-released back into society. For that reason, I oppose SB 54, and I suppose you could do an amicus brief for that. That's probably your best possibility. Sanctuary cities protect illegal criminals in jails, so SB 54 should be called the Sanctuary Jailbreak Law. SB 54 is an overreach against federal laws designed to protect its citizens from foreign invasion, such as gang members entering the U.S. illegally who also commit other crimes. There are many misconceptions about SB 54 and the people who defend it. Kevin De Leon tried to defend his bill after it passed by saying that it would divide communities without sanctuary state policies because it would use resources from local law enforcement to arrest otherwise law-abiding farm workers, hotel maids, busboys, mothers, and fathers. This is an untrue statement. It's also a scare tactic. This strikes psychological fear into law-abiding immigrants. These people now have fears about reporting crime for fear of being deported because of the false statements propagated by Kevin De Leon. The sheriffs do not question witnesses on immigration status. The Sheriff's Department does not use resources on immigration anywhere in the city, only in jails where illegals have committed felonies or misdemeanors that can be tried as felons. Ask your sheriff's officials if you don't believe me. Also, there has been a trust built between the sheriffs and the local community before SB 54, and that hasn't changed since SB 54 has been put into law. So it doesn't really make any sense that reasoning that they ever use it. Also, if you take gang members away from the community, immigrants can now report crimes without fear of retribution from gang members because gang members are around to harass immigrants' witnesses, resulting in safer communities. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. That's the last speaker card I have. Is there anyone else who would like to speak who has not spoken yet? Please come forward. I might have, there's a whole 2 stacks of these. I might have passed 2 of them at once, so I apologize, but go ahead, give your name, and pull the microphone down so we can hear what you're saying.
Thank you. I had my speech ready, but whatever. Well, my name is Arturo. Good evening, council members. What do you call it? I also would like to replace Jackie Irwin. You know, if we can replace her with a true progressive, that'll be good. I identify myself as an anarchist because I believe in reforming government. And right now, we are speaking about illegal immigrants killing people. What about the U.S. government, who is in other countries spending trillions of dollars in killing our brothers and sisters in other parts of the world for no reason at all? What about that? Well, this SB 54 is, sorry, I had my speech ready. It is to protect our communities. Let me see. Sorry. We are trying to protect our immigrants of this great nation of ours, built by immigrants, and which will be continued to be built by immigrants. You know, California was first, it was by Native Americans, then the Spaniards came, which made it I think California, then Mexico independence itself from Spain, so it is pretty much, you know, Mexican property until the U.S. I guess pretty much bought it or something for a very low price. And I just want to finish with the city of, with the sign that's up here.
Thank you for your
Las
comments.
personas de la ciudad. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak to us who has not spoken yet? Okay. A lot of people have told us what the sheriff has said and what the sheriff thinks. So I'm going to ask the sheriff to come up here and tell us for himself what he says and what he thinks.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, Mr. Norman, Mr. Perrick, I'm not quite sure I remember what I think anymore. It's a little early in the morning. Thank you for the opportunity to address you this evening. I've been engaged with SB 54 since Senator De Leon first proposed it. And while I appreciate the civility of everybody tonight, I just want to share a little bit about the facts about SB 54 and the reality of what we live in. Mr. Perrick did an incredible job in providing all sorts of documentation. So there's kind of two elements of SB 54. One involves that says that local law enforcement will not be involved in immigration in the communities. So there's clarity for the council and everyone. Local law enforcement in Ventura County has not been involved in field level immigration out in the field for probably 30 years. That's not the sheriff's department, but all the police agencies within Ventura County, and all the police executives in the county came out early on to make that perfectly clear. The second part of SB 54 that deals with the elected sheriff is the interaction with ICE in jails. And the way it works in reality is when someone is arrested, and about 80% of our arrests are felons, we no longer really have very many low-level arrests. Someone comes into the jail and they're booked. As soon as they're booked, they're fingerprinted. Their fingerprints instantly go to the FBI, who forwards those to ICE. During the interview process, we ask a list of questions, including where were you born? People can tell us whatever they want. We don't question what they tell us. If they tell us that they were foreign-born, that information gets posted on our public website. SB 54 stated that information listed in the penal code is allowed to be posted on the public website, which includes release date and place of birth and name. So we post that information on there. Now, when ICE gets their fingerprints, they send us a detainer form if they want us to hold them. That detainer form really doesn't mean anything to us because in 2014, the federal court in Oregon said that it was illegal for sheriffs in California and Oregon, anybody in the Ninth Circuit, to hold someone longer than their local charges have been adjudicated. So if you're arrested on a state charge, once you bail out, once you serve your time, whatever it might be, we're not allowed to hold those people for 48 hours, which we used to do. So that doesn't take place. When ICE sent hold, because of SB 54, we cannot honor that because it's not a federal warrant. Now, here's a catch in the federal system. Federal judges don't issue immigration warrants because it's an administrative order. Immigration officers issue warrants for holds, but those don't have the authority of law. So when we get a hold from ICE, it doesn't give us any authority to actually communicate with ICE. Also under SB 54, as people have mentioned, there's a list of crimes which are listed under the violent crimes section of the Penal Code. If someone has been arrested for those crimes and been brought before a judge, then we may share that information with ICE that those people are... I'm sorry, ma'am. So we may, and we do, as do the other 58 sheriffs in the state of California, share that information with ICE. Now, somebody brought up the incident of Mr. Vaca, who was a child molester and was released, and that is completely accurate, because Mr. Vaca was arrested for serial child molest. He came in, he was booked on a felony that would qualify, but he posted bail before he was seen by a judge. Under SB 54, that prevents the sheriff from communicating that information with ICE on that person. That is a loophole in 54. I can tell you as recently as 2 weeks ago, I met with the governor and our local representatives to deal with that loophole and a couple of other loopholes to fix that. Now, people get saying, what does the sheriff think about SB 54? I continue to be opposed to SB 54 for the part that doesn't allow us to communicate with ICE, because I believe, as do 56 of the 58 sheriffs in the state of California, that once someone has been arrested and booked into a jail, that their immigration status should be reviewed by ICE to make sure they're in the country illegally. Now, let me be clear. My opinion really doesn't matter, because it is state law. And state law says that if I violate state law, I am guilty of a crime. Now, I can tell you, for all the counties, the several counties that have come out opposed to SB 54, none of those sheriffs have changed any practice whatsoever. Every sheriff in the state of California continues to comply with SB 54. That doesn't mean we agree with it, but it's the law of the land. I don't agree with that we legalize marijuana. But the people of California voted for it, and my job is to enforce the laws and not to legislate the laws. So it's just important that I want you to hear the facts about what's really going on every day. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
I've got one question, Your Honor.
Mr. Morgan.
When an individual, let's say, has a serious crime, is being released, I know that you will notify them that he's being released, but how long do you hold them to allow them to pick him up?
We cannot, under federal law, hold someone once their local charges have been adjudicated. So if they bail out, if the judge orders their release, if they've served their time, once we process our paperwork, we have to let them go. So we tell ICE, and it's dependent on ICE to be there. Now, the reality, they're a federal agency, and they have a limited resource.
Exactly.
So if someone posts bail at 2 o'clock in the morning, the chances of an ICE agent coming down and picking those people up isn't very likely. Now, they're in my jail 5 days a week, and they have been for 15 years. But they're not there all night long.
What about the end of the service of their sentence? Do they know when that's going to happen, or can you notify them by law when they're being released?
If they have been arrested for one of the listed charges, that is in SB 54, and they have been seen by a judge, then we notify ICE. And they are aware of their release date, and we post that on our public website.
But all the other crimes that aren't on that one list, which there are a few of those, for instance, if you have a misdemeanor that used to be a felony, you can't do anything about that.
No, we can't. The only laws that are allowed are those that are listed as violent crime in the Penal Code.
And that's under SB 54.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, counsel, so we have heard all of the public testimony we're going to hear, because I've closed it. And we've heard the sheriff in response. Do Do you have further comments? Do you have questions of of the city attorney? Or do you want to just discuss it?
I have no questions.
No questions.
I don't have any questions unless the city.
I got my questions answered.
Okay.
Needs to,
Comments? Who wants to jump in?
Want me to start?
Sure.
Sure.
You look to be the most wide awake of the bunch up here.
I don't know. That's highly debatable, actually. I'm going to take a couple of minutes to lay out my position. I want to thank everyone who attended this evening. I want to thank them for their input, and thank them for their input, whether it was this evening or in past meetings, and also for all of the emails that we've received and the phone calls, etc. There's been an awful lot of input, and I appreciate it. My perspective is, as approximately 35 years as a practicing attorney, including litigation in federal and state courts. And my perspective is also as a city resident for approximately that long, and now a city council member. So no one ought to be surprised that I'm looking at this from my professional perspective as well as my obligation as a council member. First thing I want to do from a professional perspective is to thank the city attorney, because I think his presentation was excellent. My oath of office, and that's been referred to tonight and it's been referred to in past meetings, and it's my oath of office to this as a nonpartisan position, includes my promise to uphold and defend both the constitutions of the state of California and the Constitution of the United States. I don't get to choose between the state and the federal governments when they fight. My oath is to uphold both constitutions, and I take that seriously. This controversy is now in the courts, and that's properly the place where this dispute is going to get decided. And it's properly the place where the constitutional and other issues are going to be decided. So I want to reframe the question. And I don't think anybody has framed it in this way, but I'm going to reframe it right here and right now. To me, the primary question is, why is this a municipal issue? The city of Camarillo does not have its own police department. The city of Camarillo does not have its own jail. The California Values Act and the current litigation on SB 54 and other related legislation has no direct effect on the city. SB 54 does not affect street-level law enforcement by the Ventura County Sheriff's Department. Its effect is on the county jail. And as the staff report indicates, any impacts from SB 54 on the city of Camarillo are unknown at this time. From a legal perspective, in my view, whether the city of Camarillo participates in the federal government's legal action versus the state of California regarding SB 54 is meaningless. Based on my experience, the judge who is reviewing what are principally constitutional arguments in the case isn't going to pay any attention to the position of various municipalities like the city of Camarillo. Any involvement by the city of Camarillo in the SB 54 litigation is in effect a political statement, which will have no articulable impact on that litigation. This city isn't going to contribute anything to that litigation that hasn't already been contributed. And I've read the docket, and I understand the judge's order on the docket. Given that, number one, the city doesn't have its own police department or jail, number two, the pending litigation has no direct effect on the city, and number three, a judge isn't, in my view, going to pay attention to the city of Camarillo's position, it's not, in my view, a prudent use of public funds to enmesh the city in this litigation in any manner. Now, some speakers have suggested an opt-out provision, or I think I also heard a stay of enforcement option tonight. Well, that has no legal substance. It's just a political statement. And even though it has no substance legally, in my view, taking an opt-out course or a stay of enforcement course could subject the city to unnecessary and unwanted litigation. Let's deal with a resolution. A resolution that, on the one hand, supports SB 54, or on the other hand, opposes SB 54, is also meaningless. Why? It's because the judicial branch, and I haven't heard a lot of mention about the judicial branch tonight, but remember, it is our third branch of government. We can go back to the slide that Mr. Pierik showed and look at that again. It's the judicial branch that's going to decide the controversy. I believe in the rule of law, and this dispute is going to be decided by the courts, consistent with the rule of law. So, from both my attorney perspective and my council member perspective, it doesn't make sense to me to have the city of Camarillo embroiled in the dispute. It's a fight between the state and the federal government, which doesn't involve the city. SB 54 is state law. The Ventura County Sheriff's Department is obligated to follow state law. They're obligated to observe it unless it's overturned by the courts. And I support our Sheriff's Department, and I'm not going to ask them to act outside the law. And by the way, when we're talking about opt-out, we don't up here, in my view, get to decide an opt-out. Why is that legally? Well, I'll tell you why. It's because under Supreme Court precedent, a local official exceeds his or her authority when, without having a court determine that a law is unconstitutional, the official declines to follow a law that they believe is unconstitutional. That, in and of itself, is a violation of the oath of office. And I'm not going to do that. Just not going to do it. Finally, it's important to me that parties, and particularly public entities that are funded through public funds, shouldn't stick their nose into a fight between the state and federal government and spend public money when the fight doesn't involve them. I advise clients all the time not to involve themselves in a lawsuit when it's not their fight to begin with. And I think that's consistent with my ethical duties as an attorney, and that same premise holds true as a council member, especially when we're talking about public funds. I believe that we as city council members should focus on city-related issues. So, I posed the question a few minutes ago, which to me is the operative question. Why is this a municipal issue? The bottom line answer is, it's not. It is not a municipal issue. And that's a principled position. It's consistent with my oath of office, and I'll support staff recommendation number 1.
Kevin?
Yeah, I want to thank everybody. Are we?
Could you put the menu of choices up there?
You want to say? Well, I'm not going to go into legalese. I'm going to go into commonality.
Mayor,
and how it's affected all of us.
could you read section 2 of the resolution?
Excuse me, sir. It's not your opportunity to speak. It's at the council level now.
All right.
Up here, when he said number 1, he was talking about number 1 on the screen. Is that right, Mr. Tremblay? Well, let me...
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, that's what we're talking about right now. Mr. Kildee.
Okay. I want to thank everybody for being here. And this is the greatest country in the world. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but one of them is that we can get all kinds of diverse opinions. We can come together. We can talk about this. We can agree to disagree agreeably. I come from an Irish family. I come from family members that are both Republicans and Democrats, and we have a lot of discussions just like this. And sometimes it gets very interesting, but at the end of the night, we sing Danny Boy and we all go home. Now, let me start with this a little bit here, that I know there's a lot of passionate feelings on this issue, and there should be passionate feelings on this. What we have to decide right now, and I've written down a couple of notes here, but I'm not going to verbatim read that. I'm going to kind of go a little bit on some other notes that I've written here too, that we have to decide whether or not this is a state or a federal issue. Now, keep in mind, our city did not pass this law. However, we take an oath not only to support the state constitution, but we support the federal constitution as well, and we are conflicted on this. The city of Camarillo is a general law city. As was stated before, we don't have our own police force and we don't operate a jail. We contract those services out with the Ventura County Sheriff's Department. We have contracted those services out since we incorporated in 1964, and I think that they've done a very good job with that. To be clear, the Sheriff's Office and the Ventura County Law Enforcement, they have a long history, which was talked about verbatim, about not getting into immigration issues here. Let me quote. It states that, to be very clear, the Sheriff's Office and the Ventura County Law Enforcement has a long history of not being directly involved in the enforcement of immigration laws. It also states that those who do commit crimes that result in their incarceration in the county jail or are in our country illegally should be referred to the federal authorities for review of their immigration status. This is the current policy of VCSD. It's my opinion that this will be invariably decided by the courts here. Quite frankly, ladies and gentlemen, this is why we have courts, to be able to make rulings on these very, very complicated issue. I personally see very little, if any, upside for our city to get involved in this, especially if we have very little or anything to say about the outcome of this. And it may set us up for potential lawsuits. Now, I have been up here for 20 years, and our city has spent tens of thousands of dollars in lawsuits. Fortunately, most of the time we have prevailed here. But I want to make it very clear that we are using taxpayers' dollars to defend ourselves on this. I am always going to try to protect the city of Camarillo first. As I've said, this issue is in the courts. The train has left the station, and it's down the track here. The first court hearing is going to be on June 20th. And we've heard a lot on the background and all of the ins and outs of this issue, but right now we will wait to hear what the courts determine on this issue. So my recommendation is that we do option number one, which is to receive and file this and wait for the courts to decide on this very critical issue.
Mr. Morgan.
You know, this is you're kind of working in my field of play, because I dealt with immigration for many years in the federal court. I saw what she was talking about with El Salvadorians. There are gangs there in 1998 running around. As I was eating lunch at a place with another federal officer, we saw the blue and gold that they wear in their flag selling false identifications. We could tell them right away where they were. They've been here for a long time. MS-13. Someone told me they originated in Los Angeles. No. They're El Salvadorians. They came to Los Angeles and may have learned some things, but there's thousands of them, gangs, okay, out there. And tonight we're not talking about immigration. We're talking about criminal immigrants, criminal. Okay, and that's what we're dealing with tonight. And we've got to remember that, and it's not helping us at all. The gangs that they've already rounded up hundreds, I guess, with President Trump is trying to get rid of those things so we can get rid of the MS-13s out of our nation that kill people. Not little, a lot. I want to read you something because our council did this. I'm going to skip a lot of it, go to straight the last two sentences, paragraphs, which we took a stand. We as a council took a stand against SB 54. And I'll read this to you. All law enforcement officers and city elected officials take an oath to uphold and defend the California State Constitution and the Constitution of the United States. SB 54 creates a conflict between the two. It goes on, and duties of both states. But down to the bottom it says, if approved, Senate Bill 54 effectively eliminates local control and replaces it with a statewide mandate that effectively labels the state of California with a sanctuary designation. For that reason, we sent a letter against SB 54, and every one of us agreed to it. So we originally, in the beginning, were against SB 54, of what it would do to the criminals in our community and how sheriff not being able to do his job. And he admitted it. He's 54 also, but his hands are tied. Well, sometimes we need to make some changes. It's getting too close now, getting very close to the time when they're going to have it in court. But I have something else. We have a sister city called Autlan de la Grana in Jalisco. They're here now, and we have one of the couples. There's one that's a city councilman in that city, and these others are dentists and so on. And I had a long talk with them in Spanish about what they think about this. They said, we are being controlled by cartels in Mexico. And a lot of them are from Central America. And I asked, well, why don't you close the border down there so they don't get up here? And they said their legislature, their D.C., won't do it. There's people get killed there. They told me in a soccer game, if the poor referees make a wrong decision on a close play, they could get shot. Now, I've been down to Mexico every other year to visit, so I'm not afraid, but there are some problems. And if we don't want that to be here, I don't mean right away, but eventually. That's how it works. It pervades your society. Now today, I've heard a lot of this about immigrants. Hey, I'm all for you. If they're working, I'm all for you. And I know a lot of people work on green cards. They're coming from Mexico. I know someone that takes them, brings them here to work legally. But those that come in and don't have a job and don't get a job sometimes turn to crime. So I really hope you're not saying we're against immigrants. We're not. We're against criminal immigrants, those who hurt our society. And you heard someone out there say 5,000. I don't have those figures. 5,000 got killed or something like that. But anyway, I told you about the sister cities and how bad it's going down south. Okay, we want to keep ourselves safe. You know, in 1998, way back, I remember the old green trucks running around farm fields at Migros. Remember? Migros. Green card. They were doing that then. They were picking the guys that didn't have green cards because you could work then. They used to also have places like on 5th Street in Oxnard or in Santa Paula where you had people that come in here and work for 6 months and go home. There are still people who do that now. I have an Italian friend who owns a restaurant. He goes home every 6 months to Italy because he wants to keep his Italian citizenship. So it can work if you do it right. I like the lady who said, good people do nothing. Good people do nothing. Said good people. I've got that wrong. Oh, anyway, it was a good statement, whoever's made the statement. Anyway, tonight, I can see which way it's going, but there's two choices we have, I think, and one of them costs us nothing. and that would be to do the one with the resolution. That just shows support. It doesn't put us in a place of getting sued, because it's just showing our support, like we did with that letter earlier. Same thing. It's a resolution saying that we oppose it. That's it.
Mrs. McDonald?
Well, thank you. I'll try to, I have a long list here, and I know we've heard a lot of the things I have on my list. I do, though, want to start and echo what Mr. Kildee said, that this is indeed a great country where we can indeed sit in a room for many hours together and have differences of opinions and work it out and talk it through. And it truly is what makes us unique around the world. When we look at the issue at hand tonight, we all know that immigration is a function of the federal government. We all have different functions in this, our levels of government, from the federal to the state to us here at the local level. This country's always better when we're working together and we're not fighting with each other. I think of all the times that we complain about what the state of California throws down on us and all the rules they make that we have to follow, that where they upset our local control. So you can certainly understand when levels of government don't agree on something, that there is that fighting, or there is that discord. I think personally that the passage of SB 54 was a bit of a political statement, and I think you can see that very clearly when you look at the political advertisements that are being run right now for the position of governor. But it is the law, and it did pass. When we took the position, that was when they were in the process of adopting it, that was in the process of trying to make it better or more easily to enforce, to work with. And so now, though, it is the law, and we're at a point in time that I'm not sure that us getting in the middle of a fight between the federal government and the state of California is a wise move on the part of the city of Camarillo. In fact, I don't think it's really within our jurisdiction to spend city money on filing a lawsuit. You think about the money that would cost us. So to me, that one's off the table. It's a very divisive subject because people tend to make the topic grow into things that it's not, and instead of the narrow focus of what the law is. I think one of the things that I would like to suggest, I would agree with taking basically a neutral stand, because I don't think it's our fight to fight at the moment. But I think what we can do as a council in our own small way is to work to solve some of the issues that are out there. I would like to see us write letters, contact our federal representatives, and encourage them to work on immigration reform so that there's a workable system in this country. I think the other thing we can do is strengthen our guest worker program so that people can come and work on in our ag, that they can come and earn a good living and then go home to their families, to do it legally and to do it so that it works for everyone. So I think there are steps that we can take that will help our community, help all of our citizens, but taking a stand and getting in the middle of the fight of the federal and state government I don't think is wise on our part. I think the other thing we need we rely on the Ventura County Sheriff's Department for our public safety, and one of our charges is public safety. It's one of the most important things we're charged with doing. So in all of what we do after this, I would rely on them, and I would hope that they would tell us if there was ever something that needs to be done to make this community safer, that there's something that's going on that is endangering this community. And if indeed there are loopholes in this law that could be solved, then that's something else the city could do. We could join with the sheriff in writing letters asking the legislature to close up those loopholes to make it more of a workable law. So I think there's a few things we could do, but I don't support tonight getting in the middle of a fight.
Well, we had 95 people speak to us tonight. There were quite a few more cards, but a lot of people had to leave, I guess, before we got around to them. And the council has deliberated a lot, and I'm not sure if I can add anything or if it would just be better to ask Mr. Kildee to sing Danny Boy for us.
Well, I can make a stab at it if you like to, but yeah.
Cowards, you won't even read Section 2 of your own resolution.
I had a lot written up. I'm not going to read it because Mr. Tremblay said it much better. I had looked up various sections of the U.S. Constitution because our oath says, first, we will uphold the Constitution of the United States. And then after that, it says we will uphold the Constitution of the State of California. I believe that this is a dogfight that we don't have a dog in. And I believe that it would be best to wait and see what the courts say. So with that said, I will take a motion.
Cowards!
Madam Mayor, when we come back into order, I'm going to make a motion for staff recommendation number 1.
Is there a second?
Second the motion.
There's a motion, excuse me. There's a motion and a second. Everybody understand the motion? Is there discussion?
Your Honor, I know I'd like to have the resolution over this, but I'm going to go along with this but I prefer doing the resolution number 4. But we'll go along.
Voting?
Yes. Motion carries unanimously. We now go back to our regular agenda. We're going back to administrative services, consent item M.
Mayor, I believe it's community development has one more item prior to administrative services.
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
I believe community development has one more item.
Oh, does community
prior
development
to
have one more?
Administrative
I keep trying to get you off the agenda here, I'm sorry. Well, I keep going back to M because it was the one that I had read wrong and we were just going to...
Isn't that the one we skipped over?
No, we skipped over community development, B, campaign signs. We have some more of our agenda to go through. I'm sure you would all be fascinated in our discussion on political campaign signs if you'd like to join us. Could we have the staff report, please?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council. I'll try to keep this very brief. We received a report from the grand jury that indicated basically 2 things. One was that our Camarillo's policy on sign placement was unnecessarily complicated because it required candidates to know city zoning maps in order to comply with sign placement regulations. And then it also had a recommendation that our city rewrite our campaign sign placement regulations to provide more definitive direction to candidates. So we did, in fact, enhance and update our handout that we give to candidates so they're aware of what our sign ordinance requirements are. Our sign ordinance requirements are consistent with the most recent changes in the law. As you remember, we did a sign code amendment to address the United States Supreme Court case of Reed versus the town of Gilbert. And we provided a response in your packet, and we're available for any questions.
Are there any questions?
I just have one question, Joe. So this will be the reply to the grand jury report explaining our ordinance that we just updated. I believe it was last year, was it not?
Correct. That's correct.
Okay.
What are the wishes of the council?
I do have one question.
I'm sorry.
When you talk about the providing the ordinance to the candidates, do you give them a map of the city that lets them know what is commercial, what's retail, what's so that they have a visual
We're going to be simplifying the handout, so it's going to be residential zones and non-residential zones. So if it has a home, it'd be a residential zone, and if it doesn't, it's a non-residential
So
zone.
it doesn't matter if it's commercial, industrial, those are all under the same
Correct.
category in residential. So I guess then my comment would be, if they can't figure out the difference between those two, then we probably.
What about mixed use? What about mixed use?
That's considered commercial.
That's considered commercial, really?
Yeah, because it's got on the bottom.
On the bottom is generally
So
commercial.
you can have a big sign downstairs and a little sign upstairs?
Okay. What are the wishes of the
Your Honor, I'll
council?
approve the draft response to the grand jury form.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
It's a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Now we get to Administrative Services, item M, which is about lighting and poles that hold the lighting at the courtyard. And I had meant to talk about N, and I talked about M.
Okay, so you don't have any specific
I don't have a question, and I don't think if anybody else has, we can just have a motion to approve it.
I'll move to approve item N on the consent calendar.
Second.
It's a motion and a second to approve item N on the consent calendar. Please vote. I apologize for pulling that. Motion carries unanimously. Okay. Is there anything else that I have missed or skipped before we get down to new business oral communications? Okay, Mr. City Manager,
Nothing, Madam Mayor.
Mr. City Attorney.
Thank you for enough for me tonight, so I don't have anything else.
Okay, City Council, Mr. Kildee.
Okay, I attended a VRSD meeting. Airport Authority, I got the day confused. They actually showed up Thursday, and it was actually a school board meeting, so then I found out it was Monday, and I didn't
Was the school board meeting interesting?
So I guess it was the first one at the Airport Authority meeting.
Did you sing Danny?
Yeah, I should have. I did represent the city for the Ventura County Fire Awards up at Padre Serra, and it was a great event with a lot of fire personnel that got several awards, and a number of Camarillo residents were actually honored there. So it's always great to go and see them in their dress uniforms. It was really terrific.
Kevin, how long did you have to, most of the time we have to stand a long time while we're going through the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yep, long time.
You have to stand, yes. I also represented the city at a ribbon cutting at the new and improved Residence Inn.
Oh.
And it looks really good. And I was talking to the manager, and they're doing really great over there. It's very successful in the chain. So that was really cool to be able to do that. It didn't seem like that long ago where that was built, because I think most of us were there at the first one. And geez,
5 years ago.
they're already
6 years
remodeling
ago.
it, so that's pretty. I don't think they would do that if it didn't think that they were doing well. So it looks great. So if any of you ever get a chance to go on over there, and the food is good too. And that's all I have tonight. Yeah.
Mrs. McDonald.
Yes. Okay, meeting-wise, we had VCOG and VCTC, and also had the Pleasant Valley Recreation and Parks District Needs Assessment Ad Hoc Committee. And you'll be hearing hopefully soon. We're still working on what to bring back, and the biggest thing is how you're going to pay for it. So we can all dream. Now it's figuring out how to pay for those dreams.
On that one, I've been thinking a lot about that one, because when it came back, it was a big shock to all of us. I don't know about the two who are on the committee, or maybe you, because Mr. Tremblay hadn't been able to be on the committee for the majority of the time it was meeting. But is there a way to, somehow, we need to get interim reports instead of coming at us at the end and saying $58 million.
Well, I think the purpose of that report, and I will tell you, we all fell off our chair when we saw it, the $55 million. But the purpose of that was to begin with, this is everything everybody wanted, and what would that cost? And now what we'll do is start to figure out what are the number one, work our way down the list, what's the most important, and then match that up with what we can afford. But
well, at some point, I would like to, I know you guys want to go back and do that, but I think we as a council need to sit down, because when we sent you off, it was for seniors. It wasn't for all of their needs. No. And I know at the meeting there, and then we said, yes, the scope of the study can be greater, and we will pay for a good, for half of it, or I don't know at this point and tonight how much we paid, but we were going to pay for a greater study than we had originally said. I believe we need a discussion as to whether we are still looking at senior needs or park system general needs.
Well, I think what will come back next is there will be a list matching up what the priorities of the community is with that long list, and then then the Parks and Recs Board will be able to begin to get down to what everyone wants. This council did approve expanding that study with the agreement.
I said we understood. I understood we
did expand more to.
We expanded the study, but we never have had a discussion among ourselves as to whether we're willing to be part of providing other types of facilities.
Well, how can you make that decision until you get the report and you get the cost? Then we can make those decisions and you can pick and choose.
No, I think, I would like, this isn't on the agenda tonight. I'm asking for some time for us to be able to talk about it and give you guys direction.
$51 million is a lot of money.
Well,
I will tell you, no one's going to come and say, let's,
I know,
city
but I'm saying
council
what
do
they
it.
when we
But
had the meeting.
well, anyway.
$51 million.
I'm asking that we be able to discuss it before a report comes back to us, so we can give the two of you direction. We've done that on other things too.
I guess the question would be then, what do we need to have in order to make that discussion? Because you've got to begin to be, you have to have enough to have a good discussion on. So there's got to be something to base that discussion on, not just how many people show up when you want a senior center versus
I don't know that I need somebody else's list of priorities.
But isn't that why we did a community survey?
Yeah, but
I'm asking that it be put on. Is there anybody else who'd like to talk about it?
I would.
At the council meeting without some Park and Rec Board member over there sitting saying, we're not going to talk about your money and my money. This is all our money.
Well, I would agree with you that the council needs to have a discussion as the council.
Or maybe we can do it in a study session if that doesn't.
We can do it as a study session.
I think there just has to be one more step so that the architect can put prices to bits and pieces. What would just a senior center cost? What would just a senior center and gymnasium cost? So that the council can make that decision on what they're willing to put in. Mr. Tremblay, are you?
Madam Mayor. Yeah, I'm going to agree with Mrs. McDonald, because some of this is a chicken and egg type situation. And at our last Needs Assessment Committee meeting, we spoke a lot about trying to put those pieces together so that a project is more defined. And as Mrs. McDonald pointed out at that committee meeting, and I think what we left, Jan, with an agreement on that concurrently was very important, that the Rec and Park District needs to figure out what it's willing to do. Mm-hmm. Well, by the same token, we need to do that as well. And I think Jan's comment on, I think the way I would see this is go that next step, then bring it back to us as a council in study session and talk about it there, because at that point we will be armed with that information. We'll be far more informed we'll have a more informed discussion, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I'm sorry it's late, but that's the bottom line. So I agree with you, Madam Mayor. I do think if we could take this one more step, it will be a more informed discussion.
I would like to talk about it as a council, before we get into another meeting where we got Park and Rec people as part of our discussion.
I feel the same way. We need to talk first.
Then I'm okay.
But we just need to get you some facts so we can have a good
Okay.
discussion.
Right. I want to have an informed.
Well, I don't want it to go 2 years. Isn't that
Oh,
what the
no.
original one was? And then it was all of a sudden whammo.
Well, there was a process. It wasn't 2 years. Tony hasn't been here for
18 months. Well,
Not even 18 months.
We started
But-
out before Tony got here.
Right, but you're right, and we all went into sticker shock at that Plan 3 amount, right? And we all agree that that's just not. I think everyone's in agreement, including the Recreation Park District, that that's just economically infeasible. It doesn't make sense. So now we got to dial it back, and it's the process of trying to dial it back that we've been working on, and then have that discussion here at this council.
I interrupted your one. You only.
By
got
the way, so you guys know, they have a senior basketball league out there at the base because a guy invited me to come out and play on Saturdays or whatever it was, and so they're using that place.
the airport.
I'm sorry, I'm used to calling it the base. That was when I was a kid. It's the airport.
Well, that's in a few years.
Yeah.
Where was I? VCOG, ad hoc. Oh, and the chamber lunch, the legislative lunch.
Oh, that's right. I went to that too.
Yeah, it was a different one. What else do I have? I also went on last Saturday to something that it's one of the programs, but it's one thing that I just think is so good when it happens. And this is Spectrum Housing Assistance, which is a group with the Spectrum Cable Company, in conjunction with the Habitat for Humanities. And they had, I believe, 35 employees from Spectrum from all over Southern California who came to help Rosemary, I'll just use her first name, who lives out on the mobile home park off of Central, to paint her house, new windows, new toilet. And these people, as I say, came from all over Southern California to spend the day with Rosemary.
Is that the cable company, Jim?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And there are a lot of these larger companies, smaller companies too, where they have community service day. They do this 4 times a year from Spectrum. And then Habitat for Humanity is there because they're kind of the on-job contractor, so to speak, that oversees it and makes sure it's done right. But it really does just, it makes you feel good, and I think the more we can do that, the better, because a lot of our seniors have lived in their homes for many, many years and can't afford to really do what needs to happen to their older homes. So I've got to drive by it and see it all painted. And she got to pick out the color, and she has a nice, I think she picked maroon for the door, so her front door is welcoming. So I'd like to see us participate in that as much as we can. I have just a couple of other things. We got a couple of letters from the people who live in one of our oldest communities. Remind me what the name of it is, off of Dawson and...
Oh, yeah.
Something Gardens.
Cayugas Gardens, is that what? I don't know why I can't remember that. And it was pictures from their backyard, and all they could see was those huge 3-story apartment buildings, and everyone looking down in their yards, which I can understand why they're upset. Are there requirements from the townhouses or the apartments, whichever backs up to them, to plant trees or some kind of screen that it's just kind of mind?
I know for sure there's a wall. I haven't.
Well, the wall isn't very
familiarized
high
myself with the
unless they're going to build a
landscape
new one, because the picture had a very, very...
We need to address that.
So we'll look into that.
Can you look into it?
We need to look into that.
Boy, somebody that's lived there for, I mean, as I say, it's one of the first developments in this city, many, many, many years. When was it, Kevin? You
The
remember?
first one was on Berry Street area.
Yeah, that was one of the first ones.
That was the first one.
That was.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
And now suddenly there's that in their backyard. And the other one that's kind of on the same lines, I've had several people comment on the, I call it the off-ramp complex, but it's the ones that are right there on the off-ramp on Santa Rosa Road along the freeway. And it looks like a prison from those freeway because it's all one massive building. From out there, you don't see the different pieces of it. also, are they going to have plant something or
Joe,
something?
tell him.
Bougainvillea
I talked to Joe about it.
Yes, so
Off the whole, to block the building, it just looks.
the building furthest to the east has a stormwater basin that's kind of at grade between the freeway and the building, and so that has precluded the planting of trees in that area. But the other two buildings will have a significant amount of trees in front of them.
Soften it and.
Well, I also asked Joe to see if they contact Caltrans so they could put some trees in their area in front of that, so they will have trees. Did you get a chance to call Caltrans?
No, I think Dave Klotzel and I will have to try to coordinate on
Because
that.
we can put it further toward the freeway and still have trees.
Yeah, man.
That would be something to look at to help, what you say, break up that building.
Oh, yeah, it's just.
We had this happen with Salem Communications Building at Adolfo and Santa Rosa Road, and Tony did not have any trees around it. It looked like a big billboard, 3 stories. Well, I came back, and his council, after I said, guys, we can do this, they put all those pine trees that are in there now, and it breaks it up. You don't see it.
Yeah.
But that's what we need to do over there next to the freeway.
Okay, guys,
Yeah, I'm
it's
not
getting
done.
late here.
I would like to ask, and following up to our long discussion tonight, I mentioned the simply writing letters to our representatives, encouraging them to do something about immigration reform and also a farm worker program or something like that. So I'd like to have that discussion if we need to have it, or just ask that staff develop something for us to review. But it doesn't have to take a big position. It's just we're making the statement. This all happened because.
Remember, under Reagan, they had great immigration reform, and it was going to solve all of our problems. He gave amnesty to everybody who was here, and we're right back in the same place. So I don't have great hope for.
Well, no, but at least we've done something. At least we have tried to, in our own little small way, say, please take care of it, because it is the federal government that needs to do that, and both the federal and I don't know how much the state can get into the farm worker program if it needs to come from them first. But those are two things that, they should be doing their job. We take a stand on a lot of other things.
Well, I don't think a letter should just be written. I mean, a letter can come, but we have to approve it if it's on something like
That's why
that.
I don't know if we want another agenda item to talk about it, because then we'll end up spending hours and hours, because we've already gotten a lot of testimony regarding it. But
Can I suggest that that be referred to the Ledge Committee, and they can perhaps develop
bring it back
something?
to council.
Sure, of
from that
course.
okay.
Yeah.
I think
Sounds
that'd be
good.
the better way to do it.
Perfect. That's all I have.
Mr. Morgan.
Most of my time was taken up with the sister cities are here. They leave back from Mexico tomorrow. And I was really, not happy, but interesting to hear what their take was on especially on the Central Americans coming through. And actually a lot of cartels developed in Mexico now, worse than it was in Colombia. Colombia's changed now. They make a party. And so now it's a democracy, and you don't have as much as you had before. But it's moved to Mexico, and they told me the whole stories, and I thought, oh, this is sad. There's some things affecting them that you're afraid to do a whole big thing, you might get killed. And so that kind of thing, I was hoping maybe we've got to watch what we're doing in this country. Anyway, we had a good time, and tonight they're coming back from Disneyland. They'll be me back home. And then also the Rebozo Festival, which you really need to kind of speak Spanish when you go to that. But I got to talk there, a little bit, because I was the only person there. And they enjoyed the Rebozo Festival. That was fun. Vietnam, we had a Vietnam committee meeting. And the thing is coming around, guys. The final version of what that's going to look like is, I think, almost there. Next meeting, we should have a final for everyone. And it looks good. It's going to look really good, for all who died in the wars. What was the other one? Sisters. Oh, yeah, Contract Cities. That was it. Charlotte and I went to the Contract Cities meeting. Getting a little bit, their sound system was rotten. I mean, some people that did make some presentations would do this, and this whole huge room, it would dissipate the sound a lot. So you had to really listen close to get into that. But there were a lot of fun things to watch and see. The last one, the best one, was the gentleman who trained presidents, or people that he showed all these presidents that had their trainers. Reagan and all of them had their trainers on, going through and watching them speak and tell them how to do this.
Speech coaches.
Yeah. So he gave us. He's a speech coach. He gave us a form that's pretty good. There's a couple little things I'll give you one example. Let's say you're nervous. He says everybody's nervous, even President Reagan. They're nervous. Take one deep breath. Hold it 4 seconds. As you take in a breath, count 4 seconds. And then as you let go, count 4 seconds.
Hold it.
And hold it 4 seconds. And then back up you go again. And it does alleviate that a little bit. So it's good. There's some good things he was showing us. No, it only takes a short time.
Only 2 times. Mr. Tremblay.
Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Morgan. I guess I'm not going to wait 4 seconds on this one. I'm just going to plunge right in. But I like that. Meetings attended on May 17th with Ms. McDonald, the PVRPD Needs Assessment Committee. I also had an EDC-VC board meeting. On May 18, the Camarillo Chamber of Commerce Business and Legislators Forum, attended that. And then I attended a really inspirational awards ceremony at the CYA facility. It was the Youth Scholarship Awards. And I enjoy going out to DJJ, to the CYA facility.
Mm-hmm.
And Camarillo, there is such a high level of community engagement. I'm really proud of this city and the engagement that there are so many volunteers in our area that provide time and effort. And seeing some of the youth out there receiving these scholarship awards was really a privilege for me to be there.
Did you see some of the programs that they're doing to train them with the computers and other things?
There are, and this one, the 5 I think there were 7 awardees, and out of those 7, 5 were going into child psychology and social work, civil engineering, aviation science, and engineering, I believe. So they have high dreams and hopes, and we hope they get there. May 21, we had a Finance and Investment Committee meeting with the mayor. And then finally, on the Paroli Fire Training Center, and because it's been a long week, I'm not sure if everyone is aware. I may have missed an email here or there, and if you have, stop me in my tracks. But both the budget subcommittees on both the Assembly and the Senate side, the sub-5 subcommittees that the mayor and I spent a lot of time with, both have passed out the Paroli Fire Training Center budget item. So it's in the budget, and unless it gets pulled, it's going to be moving forward. So I wasn't sure if you had heard about that yet, but that just happened within the last several days. So that concludes my report. Sorry. Oh, I had the honor of going to an Eagle Scout ceremony on Saturday as well for Eagle Scout shut of Troop 262. And that was fun. Thanks for letting me cover for you, Mr. Kildee.
Well, it's a very busy time of year. Everybody's giving awards. Everybody's doing end-of-year things, and I appreciate all of you who've pitch-hitted for me at various events, and a lot of them conflict, a lot of things at the same time. I first have to say that I think the monument sign and the landscaping along Daly Drive at our what's it called, Lewis Road exit, is just tremendous. And you go all the way up Daly, it really looks good. You tell the people they did a great job.
I miss the chickens.
They're fake chickens. We could probably just bring them back and put them in the flowers. I did attend the California Contract Cities Association conference. Mr. Morgan was there. I didn't get as much out of it as I usually do, but they have changed executive directors, and the city of Southgate was very impressed. Well, I was impressed with how much money they spend and their staff. They must have had 20 staff members there. because this is the very first time Southgate's ever had an incoming president. And the incoming president's city puts on the whole program. So aren't you glad Camarillo hasn't had to do that? I was just really impressed with the amount of effort they put in. And I don't think the sound system was theirs. I think it belonged to the hotel, so they'll have to work on that next year. But it was a good conference. There was a Vietnam Veterans Committee. I attended Alma Via's Mother's Day program. Their contest is called the Glandma, not Grandma, the Glandma, for Grandma and Glamour contest. And it was a very difficult contest to judge, especially when it was into the memory loss wing of the building. I attended a Fox Canyon Finance Committee meeting on Monday, as well as the City Investment Committee meeting on Monday, and I attended a Fox Canyon meeting this afternoon. I think we're starting to get there with the groundwater sustainability plans. However, there is one lawsuit from a group wanting the Las Posas Valley to be adjudicated. Thank you. Can't think of the words at 1:30 in the morning. And there's talk of another one over in the Oxnard, over the Oxnard Basin, Oxnard Plain. So we'll see how it goes, but there is a new hitch. The judges now can't do it in the old way. They have to make sure that it complies with the state law on groundwater sustainability plans. So I'm not sure the lawsuit has been filed by, well, I'll just let it go at that. It is now, as you can tell, just a couple days before Memorial Day. The flag will go up. Usually goes up before Memorial Day, and we keep it up till the 4th of July. Mr. Peña's flag. And all I can say is it's somewhere in my office now. I've moved, so Ryan's going to have to look for it. And the Memorial Day program will be on Monday at 11 o'clock. I hope to see everybody there. And with that, we still have a closed session, so we will recess to closed session.
If you want to know what kind of night it was, look up and down the dais on the tables, all the water bottles. I know. They're all.
You've never seen.
They're all sideways.